Good evening, everyone, and welcome in to another live reading of Goosebumps. And this evening we have got for you Let's Get Invisible, although I can see the book, so that massively helps. So, let's not beat around the bush. Let me put my screen up so I can see chat. And hello, Chicken Nugget. Wow. Let's get this ball on the road. I don't know why my chat box seems to have broken. Oh well, we'll worry about that later. I'm fixing it now. Chapter 1. I went invisible for the first time on my 12th birthday. It was all Whitey's fault, in a way. This isn't gonna be that kind of book, is it? Was this written in 1950s? Whitey is my dog. Oh, that's alright. He's just a mongrel. Part terrier, part everything else. He's all black, so of course we named him Whitey. Weird sense of humour, but okay. If Whitey hadn't been sniffing around in the attic, well, maybe. I better slow down a bit and start at the beginning. Oh, that's what I'm doing. Good idea. My birthday was on a rainy Saturday. It was a few minutes before kids would start arriving for my birthday party, so I was getting ready. Getting ready means brushing my hair. My brother is always on my case about my hair. He gives me a hard time because I spend so much time in front of the mirror brushing it and checking on it. The thing is, I just happen to have great hair. It's very thick and sort of golden brown. Checks out. And just a little bit wavy. My hair is my best feature, so I like to make sure it looks okay. Also, I have very big ears. Yeah. They stick out a lot, so I have to keep making sure that my hair covers my ears. It's important. Well, we've been told. Max, Hick's messed up at the back. My brother, Lefty says, standing behind me as I studied my hair in the front hall mirror. His name is really Noah, but I call him Lefty because he's the only left-handed person in our family. Lefty was tossing a softball up and catching it up in his left hand. He knew he wasn't supposed to toss that softball around in the house, but he always did it anyway. Let's get all the jokes about tossing over and done with, shall we? We good? We good. There's normally quite a lot of those. Lefty is 2 years younger than me. He's not a bad kid, but he has too much energy. He always has to be tossing, I told you, a ball around, drumming his hands on the table, hitting something, running around, falling down, leaping into things, wrestling with me. You get the idea. Dad says that Lefty has ants in his pants. It's a stupid expression, but it sort of describes my brother. I turned and twisted my neck to see the back of my hair. It is not messed up, liar, I said. Think fast, Lefty shouted, and he tossed the softball at me. Again with the tossing. I made a grab for it and missed. It hit the wall just below the mirror with a loud thud. Lefty and I held our breath, waiting to see if Mum had heard the sound. But she hadn't. I think she was in the kitchen doing something to the birthday cake. Oh, she tossing the birthday cake? That was pretty stupid, I whispered to Lefty. You almost broke the mirror. You're stupid, he said. Typical. Why don't you learn to throw right-handed? Then maybe I could catch it sometimes, I told him. I liked to tease him about being left-handed because he really hated it. You stink, he said, picking up the softball. I was used to it. He said it 100 times a day. I suppose he thought it was clever or something. He's okay for a 10-year-old, but he doesn't have much of a vocabulary. Your ears are sticking out, he said. I knew he was lying. I started to answer him, but the doorbell rang. Ding dong. Immersion. He and I raced down the narrow hallway to the front door. Hey, it's my party, I told him, but Lefty got to the door first and pulled it open. My best friend Zach pulled open the screen door and hurried into the house. It was starting to rain pretty hard, and he was already soaked. It actually is raining pretty hard outside, so yeah, that checks out as well. Are we in the book? He handed me a present, wrapped in a silver paper, raindrops dripping off it. Raindrops keep dripping off my present. It's a load of comics, he said. I've already read them. The X-Force graphic novel is pretty cool. Ooh, that's got Deadpool in it. X-Force. Thanks, I said. They don't look too wet. Lefty grabbed the present from my hand and ran into the living room with it. Don't open it, I shouted. He said it was just starting a pile. Zach took off his red socks cap. Oh, we're name dropping now, are we? And I got a look at his new haircut. Wow, you look different, I said, studying his new look. His black hair was shaved really short on the left side. The rest of it was long, brushed straight to the right. Did you invite any girls? He asked me. All right, you little horn dog. Or is it just boys? Some girls are coming, I told him. Erin and April. Maybe my cousin Deborah. I knew he liked Deborah. He nodded thoughtfully. Zach has a really serious face. He has these little blue eyes that always look far away, as if he's thinking hard about something, as if he's really deep. He's quite an intense boy. Just not nervous, just keyed up, and very competitive. He has to win at everything. If he comes in second place, he gets really upset and kicks the furniture. You know the kind. What are we going to do? Zach asked, shaking the water off his Red Sox cap. I shrugged. We were supposed to be in the back garden. Dad put up the volleyball net this morning, but it's before it started to rain. I got out some videos. Maybe we'll watch them. The doorbell rang. Lefty appeared again from out of nowhere, pushed Zach and me out of the way, and made a dive for the door. Oh, it's you, I heard him say. Thanks for the welcome. I recognised Erin's squeaky voice. Oh, sorry, in that case. Thanks for the welcome. Some kids call Erin Mouse because of that voice. I ain't doing that voice the entire thing. Hell no. And because she's tiny like a mouse. It's not much of a metaphor then, is it? She has a short, straight blonde hair, and I think she's cute, but of course I'd never tell anyone that. Can we come in? I recognise April's voice next. April is the other girl in our group. She has curly black hair and dark, sad eyes. I always thought she was really sad, but then I realised that she's just shy. The party's tomorrow, I heard Lefty tell them. Huh? Both girls uttered cries of surprise. No, it isn't, I shouted. I stepped into the doorway and shoved Lefty out of the way. I pushed open the screen door so Erin and April could come in. You know Lefty's little joke, I said, squeezing my brother against the wall. Lefty is a little joke, Erin said. You're stupid, Lefty told her. I pressed him into the wall a little harder, leaning him against with all my weight, but he ducked down and scooted away. Happy birthday, April said, shaking the rain from her curly hair. She handed me a what? We must know. Present, wrapped in Christmas wrapping paper. It's the only paper we had, she explained, seeing me staring at it, the tight bitch. Merry Christmas to you too, I joked. The present felt like a CD. I forgot your present, Erin said. What is it? I asked, following the girls into the living room. I don't know. I haven't bought it yet. Alright, you cheap bitch. Wow, your friends suck. Get better friends. Lefty grabbed April's present out of my hand and ran out, put it on top of Zach's present in the corner behind the sofa. Erin plopped down on the white leather ottoman in front of the armchair. I hope she cleaned it up afterwards. April stood at the window, staring out at the rain. We were going to get barbecue hot dogs, I said. They'd be pretty soggy today, April replied. Lefty stood up behind the sofa, tossing his softball out and catching it with one hand. You're going to break that lamp, I warned him. He ignored me, of course. Who else is coming? Erin asked. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang again. Lefty and I raced to the door. He tripped over his own trainers and went skidding down the hall on his stomach. So typical. By 2:30 everyone had arrived, 15 kids in all, and the party got started. Well, it didn't really get started because we couldn't decide what to do. I wanted to watch the Terminator film. I got, yes, watch the Terminator. That's a great idea. Oh, let's watch the Terminator right now. Oh, fine, I'll carry on with this. But the girls wanted to play Twister. If girls want you to play Twister, you play Twister. And watch the Terminator in the background. This sounds like a really good party, to be fair. It's my birthday, I insisted. We compromised. We played Twister. Then we watched some of the Terminator video until it was time to eat. No, food can wait. You've got Terminator on. It was a pretty good party, yeah, I'd say so. I think everyone had an okay time. Even April seemed to be having fun. She was usually really quiet and nervous looking at parties. Lefty spilled his Coke and ate his slice of chocolate birthday cake with his hands because he thought it was funny. But he was the only animal in the group. I told him the only reason he was invited was because he was family, and there was nowhere else we could stash him. That's harsh. He replied by opening his mouth up really wide so everyone could see his chewed up chocolate cake inside. After I opened my presents, I put the Terminator video back on, but everyone started to leave. I think it was about 5 o'clock. It looked much later. It was dark as night out, still storming. There's a storm coming. Oh wait, that's Terminator. My parents were in the kitchen clearing up. Erin and April were the only ones left. Erin's mother was supposed to pick them up. She phoned and said she'd be a little late. Whitey was standing at the living room window, barking his head off. I looked outside. I couldn't see anyone there. I grabbed him with both hands and wrestled him away from the window. Let's go to my room, I suggested when I finally got the stupid dog quiet. I've got a new Super Nintendo game I want to try. What Super Nintendo game? I must know. Erin and April gradually followed me upstairs. They didn't like the Terminator film. Disown your friends. They don't buy you presents. They don't like the Terminator. Why are you keeping them around? Kick them out. They didn't like the Terminator film for some reason. Yeah, see, even this book's called him bullshit. The upstairs landing was pitch black. I clicked the light switch, but the overhead light didn't come on. The bulb must have gone, I said. My room was at the end of the hall. We made our way slowly through the darkness. It's spooky up there, April said quietly. And just as she said it, the airing cupboard door swung open, and, with a deafening howl, a dark figure leapt up at us. Hopefully they died because they didn't like Terminator and they forfeited their life. Hey ho. Chapter 2. In fact, I shall start Chapter 2 in just one moment because the little chat box there is annoying the piss out of me. Let's fix that. Chat box. There you are. Ooh, magic. Why are you so down? There we go. Da, 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 da. Fixed. As if by magic. Oh, that's killed the immersion, hasn't it? Chapter 2. As the girls cried out in horror, the howling creature grabbed me around the waist and wrestled me to the floor. Lefty, let go! I screamed angrily. You're not funny. He was laughing like a lunatic. He thought he was a riot. Gotcha, bitch, he cried. I got you good. We weren't scared, Erin insisted. We knew it was you. Then why'd you scream? Lefty asked. Erin didn't have an answer. I shoved him off me and climbed to my feet. That was stupid, Lefty. How long have you been waiting in the airing cupboard? April asked. A long time, Lefty told her. He started to get up, but Whitey ran up to him and began furiously licking his face. It tickled so much, Lefty fell onto his back, laughing. You scared Whitey too, I said. I don't like saying the word Whitey over and over again. Oh, dear. No, I didn't. Whitey's cleverer than you lot. Lefty pushed Whitey away. Whitey began sniffing at the door across the hall. Where does that door lead to, Max? Erin asked. To the attic, I told her. You've got an attic? Erin cried, as if it was some kind of big deal. What's up there? I love attics. Huh? I squinted at her in the dark. Sometimes girls are really weird. I mean, how could anyone love attics? Just a lot of old junk my grandparents left, I told her. This house used to be theirs. Mum and Dad stored a lot of their stuff in the attic. We hardly ever go up there. Can we go up there and take a look? Erin asked. I suppose so, I said. I don't think it's too big a thrill or anything. I love old junk, Erin said. But it's so dark, April said softly. I think she was a bit scared. I'm not surprised you didn't like Terminator. That fucking attic's got to be way too much for her. I swung the door and reached for the light switch just inside. A ceiling light clicked on in the attic. It cast a pale yellow light down at us as we stared up the steep wooden stairs. Ooh, I could do yellow. There we go. Immersion. See, there's a light up there, I told April. I stared up the stairs. They creaked under my feet. My shadow was really long. You coming? Erin's mum will be here any minute, April said. We'll just go up for a second, Erin said. She gave April a gentle push. Come on. Whitey trotted past us as we climbed the stairs, his tail wagging excitedly, his toenails clicking loudly on the wooden steps. About halfway up, the air grew hot and dry. I stopped on the top step and looked around. The attic stretched on both sides. It was one long room filled with old furniture, cardboard boxes, old clothes, fishing rods, stacks of yellow magazines, all kinds of junk. Oh, it smells so musty, Erin said, moving past me and taking a few steps into the vast space. She took a deep breath. I love that smell. You're weird, Erin. You're definitely weird, I told her. Oh, thanks, Bug. Rain drummed loudly against the roof. The sound echoed through the low room, a steady roar. It sounded as if it was inside a waterfall. All four of us began walking around, exploring. Lefty kept tossing his softball up against the ceiling rafters, then catching it as it came down. I noticed that April stayed close to Erin. Whitey was sniffing furiously along the wall. How big is this sodding attic? It can all fit in. Think there are mice up here? Lefty asked, a devilish grin crossing his face. I saw April's eyes widen. Big fat mice who like to climb up girls' legs, Lefty teased. My little brother has a great sense of humour. Has he? Don't think so. He sounds like a little prick to me. Can we go now? April asked impatiently. She started back towards the stairs. Look at these old magazines, Erin explained, ignoring her. She picked one up and started flipping through it. Readers' Wives. Check this out. The clothes these models are wearing are a riot. Hey, what's Whitey doing? Lefty asked suddenly. I followed his gaze to the far wall behind the tall stack of boxes. I could see Whitey's tail wagging, and I could hear him scratching furiously at something. Whitey, come, I commanded. This is a kid's book, right? Of course he ignored me. He began scratching harder. Whitey, what are you scratching at? Probably pulling a mouse apart, Lefty suggested. I'm out of here, April exclaimed. Whitey, I called. Stepping around an old dining room table, I made my way across the cluttered attic. I quickly saw that he was scratching at the bottom of a door. Hey, look, I called to the others. Whitey's found a hidden door. Cool, Erin cried, hurrying over. Lefty and April were right behind. I didn't know this was up here, I said. We've got to explore, Erin urged. Let's see what's on the other side. And that's when the trouble all began. I can understand why they say it was all Whitey's fault, right? If that stupid dog hadn't started sniffing and scratching there, we might have never found the hidden attic room, and we would have never discovered the exciting and frightening secret behind that wooden door. Chapter 3. Whitey! I knelt down and pulled the dog away from the door. What's your problem, doggy? As soon as I moved him aside, Whitey lost all interest in the door. He trotted off and started sniffing around another corner. Talk about your short attention span. But I suppose that's the difference between dogs and people. Well, they have short attention spans. Yeah, I think there's more differences, but okay. Dogs also like Terminator. The rain continued to pound down, a steady roar just above our heads. I could hear the wind whistling around the corner of the house. It was a real spring storm. The door had a rusted latch about halfway up. It slid off easily, and the wooden door started to swing open before I even pulled at it. The door hinges squeaked as I pulled the door towards me, revealing solid darkness on the other side. Before I had got the door open halfway, Lefty scooted under me and darted into the dark room. A dead body! He shrieked. No! April and Erin both cried out in squeals of terror. But I knew Lefty's stupid sense of humour. Nice try, Lefty, I said, and followed him through the doorway. Of course he was just teasing. I found myself in a small windowless room. The only light came from the pale yellow ceiling light behind us in the middle of the attic. Push the door all the way open so the light can get in, I instructed Erin. I can't see a thing in here. Erin pushed open the door and slid a box over to hold it in place. Then she and April crept in to join Lefty and me. It's too big to be a cupboard, Erin said. Her voice sounded even squeakier than usual. So what is it? Just a room, I suppose, I said, still waiting for my eyes to adjust to the dim light. I took another step into the room, and as I did, a dark figure stepped toward me. I screamed and jumped back. The other person jumped back too. Can't really do it in the chair. It's a mirrored door, Lefty said, and started to laugh. Instantly, all four of us were laughing, nervous, high-pitched laughter. Ha, ha, ha. It was a mirror in front of us, in the pale yellow light filtering into the small square room. I could see it clearly now. It was a big rectangular mirror, about 1/2 metre taller than me, with a dark wood frame. It rested on a wooden base. Not a butty biscuit base, that's a shame. I moved closer to it, and my reflection moved once again to greet me. To my surprise, the reflection was clear. No dust on the glass, despite the fact that no one had been in here for ages. I stepped in front of it and started to examine my hair. I mean, that's what mirrors are for, right? Who would put a mirror in a room all by itself, Erin asked. I could see her dark reflection in the mirror. A metre or so behind me. Maybe it's a valuable piece of furniture or something, I said, reaching into my jeans pocket for my comb. You know, an antique. Did your parents put it up here? Erin asked. I don't know, I replied. Maybe it belonged to my grandparents. I just don't know. I ran the comb through my hair a few times. Can we go now? This isn't too thrilling, April said. She was still lingering reluctantly in the doorway. Maybe it was a carnival mirror, Lefty said, pushing me out of the way and making faces in the mirror, bringing his face to centimetres from the glass. You know, one of those fun house mirrors that makes your body look as if it's shaped like an egg. Can I offer you a nice egg-shaped mirror in this trying time? You've already shaped like an egg, I joked, pushing him aside. At least your head is. You're a rotten egg, he snapped back. You stink. I peered into the mirror. I looked perfectly normal, not distorted at all. Hey, April, come in, I urged. You're blocking most of the light. Can't we just leave? She asked, whining. Reluctantly, she moved from the doorway, taking a few small steps into the room. Who cares about an old mirror anyway? Hey, look, I said, pointing. I had spotted a light attached to the top of the mirror. It was oval-shaped, made of brass, or some other kind of metal. The bulb was long and narrow, almost like a fluorescent bulb, only shorter. I gazed up at it, trying to make out in the dim light. How do you turn it on, I wonder? There's a chain, Erin said, coming up beside me. Sure enough, a slender chain descending from the right side of the lamp, hanging down about 20 centimetres from the top of the mirror. Wonder if it works, I said. The bulb's probably dead, Lefty remarked. Good old Lefty, always an optimist. Only one way to find out, I said, standing on tiptoe. I stretched my hand up to the chain. Be careful, April warned. Huh? It's just a light, I told her. Famous last words. I reached up. Missed. Tried again. I grabbed the chain on the second try and pulled. The light came on with a startling bright flash. Oh wait, son of a bitch. Wait, piss yellow. There we are. Immersion. Hey, that's better, I exclaimed. It lights up the whole room. Pretty bright, huh? No one said anything. I said, pretty bright, huh? Still silence from my companions. I turned around and was surprised to find looks of horror on all three faces. Max! Lefty cried, staring hard at me, his eyes practically popping out of his head. I can't do that. Max, where are you? Erin cried. She turned to April. Where'd he go? I'm right here, I told them. I haven't moved. But we can't see you, April cried. Has she gone invisible? Is it like the book? It is the book. I should hope so. Otherwise, it'd be false advertising. Chapter 4. All three of them were staring in my direction with their eyes bulging and looks of horror still on their faces, but I could tell they were teasing. Give me a break, you lot, I said. I'm not as stupid as I look. No way am I falling for your pathetic joke. But Max, Lefty insisted, we're serious. We're super serious, you guys. We can't see you, Erin repeated. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Suddenly, the light started to hurt my eyes. It seemed to grow brighter. It was shining right in my face. Shielding my eyes with one hand, I reached up to the other hand and pulled the chain. The light went out. But the white glare stayed with me. I tried to blink it away, but I still saw large bright spots before my eyes. Hey, you're back, Lefty cried. He stepped up and grabbed my arm and squeezed it, as if he was testing it, making sure I was real or something. What's your problem? I snapped. It was starting to get angry. I didn't fall for your stupid joke, Lefty, so why keep it up? To my surprise, Lefty didn't back away. He held onto my arm as if he were afraid to let go. We weren't joking, Max, Erin insisted in a low voice. We really couldn't see you. It must have been the light in the mirror, April said. She was pressed up against the wall next to the doorway. It was so bright I think it was just an optical illusion or something. It wasn't an optical illusion, Erin told her. I was standing right next to Max and I couldn't see him. He was invisible, Lefty added solemnly. I laughed. You lot are trying to scare me, I said, and you're doing a pretty good job of it. You scared us, Lefty exclaimed. He let go of my arm and stepped up to the mirror. I followed his gaze. There I am, I said, pointing at my reflection. A strand of hair was poking back at the back of my head. I carefully slicked it down. Let's get out of here, April pleaded. Lefty started to toss his softball up, studying himself in the mirror. I should have bought a softball if I knew there was going to be much tossing of one in this. Erin made her way back to the back of the mirror. It's too dark out here. I can't see anything, she said. She stepped round to the front and stared up at the oval-shaped lamp on top. You disappeared as soon as you pulled the chain on that lamp. You're really serious, I said. For the first time I began to believe you weren't joking. You're invisible, Max, Erin said. Poof! You were gone. She's right, Lefty agreed, tossing the softball and catching it, admiring his form in the mirror. It was just an optical illusion, April insisted. Why are you all making such a big deal about it? It wasn't, Erin insisted. He clicked on the light. Had he disappeared in a flash? Lefty said. He dropped the softball. It bounced loudly on the hardwood floor, then rolled behind the mirror. He hesitated for a few seconds, then he went after it, diving for the ball in the darkness. A few seconds later, he came running back. You really were invisible, Max, he said. Really? Erin added, staring hard at me. Prove it, I told them. Let's go, April pleaded. She had moved to the doorway and was standing half in, half out, shaking it all about of the room. What do you mean, prove it? Erin asked. Talking to my dark reflection in the mirror. Show me, I said. What mean do you... You mean do what you did? Erin asked. Sorry, my brain froze there. Turning to talk to me, to the real me. Yeah, I said. You go invisible too, just like I did. Erin and Lefty stared at me. Lefty's mouth dropped open. This is just silly, April called from behind us. I'll do it, Lefty said. He stepped up to the mirror. I pulled him back by the shoulders. Not you, I said. You're too young. He tried to pull out of my grasp, but I held onto him. How about you, Erin? I urged, wrapping my arms around Lefty's waist to keep him back from the mirror. He shrugged. Okay, I'll try, I suppose. Lefty stopped struggling to get away. I loosened my grip a little. We watched Erin step up in front of the mirror. Her reflection stared back at her, dark and shadowy. She stood on tiptoe, reached up, and grabbed the lamp chain. She glanced over at me and smiled. Here goes, she said. What was going to happen? Maybe invisibility. I don't think that's too much of a stretch. Chapter 5. The chain slipped from Erin's hand. She reached up and grabbed it again. She was just about to tug at it when a woman's voice interrupted from downstairs. Erin, are you up there, April? I recognised the voice. Erin's mum. Yeah, we're up here, Erin shouted. She let go of the chain. Hurry down. We're late, her mum called her. What are you doing up in the attic anyway? Nothing, Erin called down. She turned to me and shrugged. Good, I'm out of here, April exclaimed and hurried to the stairs. We all followed her down, clumping noisily down the creaking wooden stairs. What were you doing up there? My mum asked when we were all in the living room. It's so dusty in that attic. I wonder it's a wonder you're not all filthy. Well, they were tossing up there, so they were a bit filthy. We were just messing around, I told her. We were playing with an old mirror, Lefty said. It was fun. Playing with a mirror? Erin's mum flashed my mum a bewildered glance. See you too, Erin said, pulling her mum to the door. Great party, Max. Especially Terminator. That was badass. Yeah, thanks, added April. They headed out the front door. The rain had finally stopped. I stood at the screen door and watched them step around the puddles on the path as they made their way to the car. When I turned back into the living room, Lefty was tossing the softball up to the ceiling, trying to catch it behind his back. He missed. The ball bounced up from the floor onto the side table where it knocked over a large vase of tulips. What a crash. The vase shattered. Tulips went flying. All the water poured down onto the carpet. Mum threw up her hands in the air like she just don't care and said something silently up to the sky, the way she always does when she's been pushed too far about something. Then she really got on Lefty's case. She started screaming, How many times have I had to tell you not to throw the ball at the house? Stuff like that. She kept it up for quite a while. Lefty shrank into the corner and tried to make himself tinier and tinier. He kept saying he was sorry, but Mum was yelling so loud, I don't think she heard him. But Lefty wanted to be invisible right at that moment. But he had to stand and take his punishment. Then he and I cleared up the mess. A few seconds later, I saw him tossing the softball up in the living room again. That's the thing about Lefty. He never learns. I didn't think about the mirror again for a couple of days. I was so busy with school and other things, researching for the spring concert. I'm only in the chorus, but I have to go to every rehearsal. I saw Erin and April in the school a lot, but neither of them mentioned the mirror. I suppose maybe it just hit their minds too, or maybe we all just shut it out of our minds. It was pretty scary if you stopped to think about it. I mean, if you believe what they said happened. Then, that Wednesday night, I couldn't get to sleep. I was lying there, staring up at the ceiling, watching the shadows sway back and forth. I tried counting sheep. I tried shutting my eyes really tight and counting backwards from 1,000. 1,999. 990. I'm not doing that. But I was really wound up for some reason, not at all sleepy. Suddenly, I find myself thinking about the mirror up in the attic. What was it doing up there, I asked myself. Where did it come from? Where did it go? Where did it come from? Attic in the mirror. What was it doing up there? Why was it closed up in that hidden room with the door carefully latched? Who did it belong to? My grandparents? If so, why would they hide it in that tiny room? I wondered if Mum and Dad even knew it was up there. I started thinking about what had happened. On Saturday after my birthday party, I pictured myself standing in front of the mirror, combing my hair, then reaching for the chain, pulling it, the flash of bright light as the lamp went on, and then... Did I see my reflection in the mirror after the light went on? I couldn't remember. Did I see myself at all? My hands? My feet? I couldn't remember. It was a joke, I said aloud, lying in my bed, kicking the covers off me. It had to be a joke. Lefty was always playing stupid jokes on me, trying to make me look bad. My brother was a joker. He'd always been a joker. He was never serious. Never. He really pisses off Batman. So what made me think he was serious now? Because Evan and April had agreed with him. Before I realised it, I climbed out of bed. Only one way to find out if they were serious or not, I told myself. I searched in the dark for my bedroom slippers. I buttoned my pyjama shirt, which had come undone from all my tossing and turning. Yes, that's what it's come undone from. Then, as silent as I could be, I crept out onto the landing. The house was dark except for the tiny nightlight down on the floor just beside Lefty's bedroom. Lefty was the only one in the family who ever got up in the middle of the night. He insisted on having a nightlight in his room and one on the landing, even though I made fun of him about it as often as I could. Now I was grateful for the light as I made my way on tiptoe to the attic stairs. Even though I was being so careful, the floorboards squeaked under my feet. It's just impossible not to make a noise in an old house like this. I stopped and held my breath. I can't read it from holding my breath, can I? Listening hard, listening for any sign that I had been heard. Silence. Taking a deep breath. I opened the attic door, fumbled around till I found the light switch, and clicked on the attic light. Then I made my way slowly up the steep stairs, leaning all my weight onto the banister, trying my hardest not to make the stairs creak. It seemed to take forever to get all the way up. Finally, I stopped at the top step and gazed around. I've lost my place now. Letting my eyes adjust to the yellow glare of the ceiling light. The attic was hot and stuffy. The air was so dry it made my nose burn. I had a sudden urge to turn around and go back. But then my eyes stopped in the doorway to the small hidden room. In our hurry to leave, we had left the door wide open. It's not really hidden then if the door's open, is it? Staring at the darkness beyond the open doorway, I stepped into the landing and made my way quickly across the cluttered floor. The floorboards creaked and groaned beneath me, but I barely heard them. I was drawn to the open doorway, drawn to the mysterious room as if being pulled by a powerful magnet. Yeah, magnets, bitch. I had to see the tall mirror again. I had to examine it, study it closely. I had to know the truth about it. I stepped into the small room without hesitation and walked up to the mirror. I paused for a moment and studied my shadowy reflection on the glass. My hair was totally messed up, but I didn't care. I stared at myself, stared into my eyes. Then I took a step back to get a different view. The mirror reflected my entire body from head to foot. There wasn't anything special about the reflection. It wasn't distorted or weird in any way. The fact it was such a normal reflection helped to calm me. I hadn't realised it, but my heart was fluttering like a nervous butterfly. My hands and feet were cold as ice. They are willing to sacrifice. Calm down, Max, I whispered to myself, watching myself whisper in the dark mirror. I did a funny little dance for my own benefit, waving my hands above my head and shaking my whole body. It's a weird dance, that is. Don't do that again. Nothing special about this mirror, I said aloud. I reached out and touched it. The glass felt cool despite the warmth of the room. I ran my hand along the glass until I reached the frame. Then I let my hand wander up and down the wood frame. It almost felt smooth and cool. It's just a mirror, I thought, finally feeling more relaxed. Just an old mirror that somebody stood up here long ago and forgot about. Still holding onto the frame, I walked around to the back. It was too dark to see clearly, but it didn't seem too interesting back there. Well, I might as well turn on the light at the top, I thought. I returned to the front of the mirror, standing just centimetres back from it. I began to reach up for the lamp chain when something caught my eye. Oh. I cried out as I saw two eyes down low in the mirror. Two eyes staring out at me. Dun dun dun. Chapter 6. My breath caught in my throat. I peered down into the dark reflection. The two eyes peered up back at me. Dark and evil eyes. Uttering a cry of panic, I turned away from the mirror. Lefty, I cried. My voice came out shrill and tight as if someone was squeezing my throat. He grinned at me from just inside the doorway. I realized that had been Lefty's eyes reflected in the mirror. Evil eyes, says Lefty. I ran over him and grabbed him by the shoulders. You scared me to death, I half screamed, half whispered. His grin grew louder. You're stupid, he said. I wanted to strangle him. He thought it was a riot. Why'd you sneak up behind me, I demanded, giving him a shove back against the wall. He shrugged. Well, what are you doing up here anyway, I spluttered. I could still see those dark eyes staring out at me in the mirror. So creepy. I heard you, he explained, leaning back against the wall, still grinning. I was awake. I heard you walk past my room, so I followed you. Well, you shouldn't be up here, I snapped. Neither should you, he snapped back. Yo, Nordic. Get back downstairs and go to bed, I said. My voice was finally returning to normal. I tried to sound as if I meant business. But Lefty didn't move. Make me, he said. Another classic argument winner. I mean it, I insisted. Go back to bed. Make me, he repeated nastily. I'll tell Mum and Dad you're up here, I added. I hated being threatened, and he knows it. That's why he threatens me every hour of the day. Sometimes I just wish I could pound him. Ooh, that escalated quickly. But we live in a non-violent family. That's what Mum and Dad say every time Lefty and I start a fight. Break it up, you two. We live in a non-violent family. Sometimes non-violence can be really frustrating, know what I mean? Are you not allowed to play Doom in your house? Wow, that must suck. This was one of those times, but I could see that I wasn't going to get rid of Lefty so easily. He was determined to stay up in the attic with me and see what I was doing with the mirror. My heart had finally slowed down to normal. I was starting to feel calmer, so I decided to stop arguing with him and let him stay. I turned back to the mirror. Luckily, there wasn't another pair of eyes in there staring at me. What are you doing? Lefty demanded, stepping up behind me, his arms still crossed over his chest. Just checking out the mirror, I told him. Are you going to go invisible again? He asked. He was standing right behind me, and his breath smelled sour, like lemons. Okay. I turned and shoved him back a few steps. Get out of my face, I said. Your breath stinks. Well, thinking of lemons isn't that bad. I think of worse things to stink of. I started another stupid argument, of course. I was sorry he ever came up here. I should have stayed in bed, I realised. Finally, I persuaded him to stand some way away from me. A major victory. Yawning, I turned back to the mirror. I was starting to feel sleepy. Maybe it was because of the heat of the attic. Maybe it was because I was tired of arguing with my dopey brother. Or maybe it was because it was really late at night and I was tired. Or maybe it's Maybelline. I'm going to turn on the light, I told him, reaching for the chain. Tell me if I go invisible again. No! He shoved his way right next to me again. I want to try it too. No way, I insisted, shoving back. Yes way, he pushed me hard. I pushed back. Then I had a better idea. How about if we both stand in front of the mirror and I pulled a light chain? Okay, go ahead. Standing centimetres in front of it, practically nose to nose with his reflection, Lefty stiffened until it was standing to attention. Stop with it. Stop it. Stop being rude, Bug. He looked ridiculous, especially in those awful green pyjamas. I stepped up beside him. Here goes nothing, I said. I stretched my hand up, grabbed a light chain, and pulled. Chapter 7. The light on top of the mirror flashed. It's getting old. Ow! I cried out. The light was so bright it hurt my eyes. Then it quickly dimmed, and my eyes started to adjust. I turned to Lefty and started to say something. I don't remember what it was. It completely flew out of my mind when I realized that Lefty had disappeared. Lefty? I stammered. I'm right here, he replied. His voice sounded nearby, but I couldn't see him. Max, where are you? You can't see me, I cried. No, Lefty said. No, I can't. I could smell his sour breath, so I knew he was there, but he was invisible. Gone. Out of sight. So they weren't teasing him. Erin, April, and Lefty had been telling the truth on Saturday after my birthday party. I really had gone invisible. Is this the origin story of John Cena? Remains to be seen. And now I was invisible again, along with my brother. Hey, Max. His voice sounded tiny, shaky. This is weird. Yeah, it's weird, okay, I agreed. You really can't see me, Lefty. Nope, and I can't see myself, he said. The mirror. I have forgotten to check the mirror. Did I have a reflection? I turned and stared into the mirror. The light was pouring down from the top of the frame, casting a bright glare over the glass. Squinting into the glare, I saw nothing. No me. No Lefty. Just a reflection of the wall behind us and the open doorway leading to the rest of the attic. We don't have reflections, I said. It's kind of cool, Lefty remarked. He grabbed my arm. I jumped in surprise. Hey, I cried. It felt creepy to be grabbed by an invisible person. I grabbed him back. I tickled his ribs. He started to laugh. We still have our bodies, I said. We just can't see them. He tried to tickle me, but I danced away from him. Hey, Max, where'd you go? He called, sounding frightened again. Try and find me, I teased, backing towards the wall. I can't, he said shakily. Come back over here, okay? No way, I said. I don't want to be tickled. Really, you can turn invisible and the only thing you want to do is tickle people? Get better ideas. I won't, Lefty swore. I promise. I stepped back in front of the mirror. Are you here? Lefty asked timidly. Yes, I'm right beside you. I can smell your bad breath. Bad breath of lemons, I told him. And he started to tickle me again, the little liar. We wrestled around for a bit. This is the origin story of John Cena. It was just so strange wrestling with someone you couldn't see. Finally, I pushed him away. I wonder if we could go downstairs and still be invisible, I said. I wonder if we could leave the house like this. And go and spy on people, Lefty suggested. Yeah, I said. I yawned. I was starting to feel a little strange. We could go and spy on girls and stuff. Is this R-rated? Cool, Lefty said. Alright, we're gone from tickling people to let's go and commit crime. Remember that old film Mum and Dad were watching on TV, I asked him, about the ghosts who kept appearing and disappearing all the time? They had a lot of fun scaring people. I wonder what film that is. You know, playing jokes on them, driving them crazy. You know, sort of Hollow Man. Is that what you're referring to? But we're not ghosts, Lefty replied in a trembling voice. I think the idea kind of frightened him. It frightened me too. Can we go back to normal now? Lefty asked. I don't feel right. Me neither, I told him. I was just feeling very light. Kind of fluttery. Just weird. How can we get back visible again? He asked. Well, the last time I just pulled the chain and clicked the light off, and I was back. That's all it took. Well, do that, Lefty urged impatiently. Right now, okay? Yeah, okay. I started to feel pretty dizzy. Kind of light, as if I could float away or something. Hurry, Lefty said. I could hear him breathing hard. I reached up and grabbed the light chain. No problem, I told him. We'll be back in a second. I pulled the chain. The light went out. But Lefty and I didn't return. Dun dun dun. You enjoying it so far, guys? I'm putting the light back on. It's too cold. It's too dark. Actually, I'm going to have a quick sippy. We're moving on to chapter 8. We've got 140 pages of this book. We're on chapter 39. Chapter 39? Page 39. We are steamrolling through. Let's continue. I wonder what's going to happen. Chapter 8. Max, I can't see you, Lefty whined. I know, I replied quietly. I felt so frightened. I had chills. They're multiplying, and they're running down my back. Chills that wouldn't stop. I can't see you either. What happened? Lefty cried. I could feel him tug at my invisible arm. I don't know, I stammered. It worked back before. I clicked off the light and I was back. I gazed into the mirror. No reflection. Nothing. No me. No Lefty. I stood there staring at the spot where our reflection should be, frozen with fear. I was glad Lefty couldn't see me because I wouldn't want him to see how frightened I look. How frightened I look? But you can't see yourself. How would you know how frightened you look? Okay. Try it again, Max, he whined. Please, hurry. Okay, I said. Just try and stay calm, okay? Stay calm? How? Lefty wailed. What if we never get back? What if no one can ever see us ever again? I suddenly felt so sick. My stomach just sort of heaved. Get a grip, I told myself. We've got to keep calm, Max, for Lefty's sake. I stretched up to the light chain, but it seemed to be out of my reach. I tried again, missed, and then suddenly I was back, and so was Lefty. We could see each other, and we could see our reflections in the mirror. We're back, we both shouted in unison, and then we both fell on the floor, laughing. We were so relieved, so happy. Shh. I grabbed Lefty and shoved my hand over his mouth. I just remembered. It was the middle of the night. If Mum and Dad catch us up here, they'll kill us, I warned, whispering. Why did it take us so long to come back? Lefty asked, turning serious, gazing at his reflection. I shrugged. Beats me. I thought about it. Maybe if you stay invisible longer, it takes longer for you to get back, I suggested. What do you mean? The first time we went invisible, I told him, it was only for a few seconds, and I came back instantly, as soon as I clicked off the light, but tonight, we stayed invisible a lot longer, so it took longer to come back. I get it, Lefty said. You're not as thick as you look, I said, yawning. You are, he snapped back. Feeling totally exhausted, I started to lead the way out of the tiny room, motioning for Lefty to follow me. But he hesitated, glancing back at his reflection in the mirror. We have to tell Mum and Dad about the mirror, he whispered thoughtfully. No way, I told him. No way are we telling them. If we tell them about it, they'll take it away. They won't let us use it. He stared at me thoughtfully. I'm not sure I want to use it, he said softly. Well, I do, I said, turning at the doorway to look back at him. I want to use it just one more time. What for? Lefty asked, yawning. To scare Zach, I said, grinning. Zach couldn't come over until Saturday. As soon as he arrived, I wanted to take him up to the attic and give him a demonstration of the mirror's powers. Mainly, I wanted to scare the life out of him. But Mum insisted if we sit down for lunch first, tin chicken noodle soup and peanut butter and jam sandwiches. That's not much of a dinner, is it? I gulped my soup down as fast as I could, not even bothering to chew the noodles. I choked to death. The end. No? Okay. Lefty kept giving me meaningful glances across the table. I could see he was as eager as I was to scare Zach. Where'd you get that haircut? My mum asked Zach. She walked around the table, staring at Zach's head, frowning. She could tell she hated it. At Quick Cuts, Zach told her At Quick Cuts, Zach told her after swallowing a mouthful of peanut butter and jam. You know, at the shopping centre. We also studied Zach's haircut. I thought it was pretty cool the way it was shaved so short on the left, then hung down long on the right. It's different, all right, my mum said. We could all tell she hated it, but I suppose she thought it was covering up by calling it different. If I ever came home with a haircut like that, she'd murder me. What did your mum say about it? She asked Zach. Zach laughed. Not much. We all laughed. I kept glancing up at the clock. I was so eager to get upstairs. How about some chocolate cupcakes? Mum asked when we finished our sandwiches. Zach started to say yes, but I interrupted him. Can we have dessert later? I'm full. No, take the cake. Take the cake. I pushed back in my chair and got up quickly, motioning for Zach to follow me. Lefty was already running up the stairs. Hey, where are you going fast? Mum called after us, following us all into the hall. Upstairs? To the attic? I told her. The attic? She wrinkled up her face, puzzled. What's so interesting up there, apart from that haunted mirror? Just a pile of old magazines, I lied. They're funny. I want to show them to Zach. It was pretty fast thinking for me. I'm usually not very quick at making up stories. Mum stared at me. I don't think she believed me, but she turned back to the kitchen. Have fun, boys. Don't get too dirty up there. Reading Reader's Wise and donkeying people. We won't, I told her. I led Zack up to the steep stairs. Lefty was already waiting for us in the attic. I was about 100 degrees hotter up there. I started to sweat the second I stepped into the room. Zack stopped a few meters behind me and looked around. It's just a lot of old junk. What's so interesting up here? He asked. You'll see, I said mysteriously. This way, Lefty called eagerly, running to the little room against the far wall. He was so excited he dropped his softball. It rolled in front of him and tripped over it and fell face down on the floor with a thud. Close enough. I meant to do that, Lefty joked, climbing up quickly and leaping over the ball, which had rolled across the floor. Your brother must be made of rubber or something, Zack laughed. Falling over is his hobby, I said. He falls over about 100 times a day. I wasn't exaggerating. A few seconds later, the three of us were in the hidden room standing in front of the mirror. Even though it was a sunny afternoon, the room was as dark and shadowy as ever. Zack turned from the mirror to me, a bewildered look on his face. This is what you wanted to show me? Yeah, I nodded. Since when are you into furniture? He asked. It's an interesting mirror, don't you think? I asked. No, he said. Not really. Lefty laughed. Ha. He bounced his softball off the wall and caught it. I was deliberately taking my time. Zack was in for the surprise of his life, but I wanted to confuse him a little bit first. He was always doing things like that to me. He always acted as if he knew everything was there. That's a phrase weird. He always acted as if he knew everything there was to know. And if I was good, he'd share a little bit of his knowledge with me. Well, now I knew something he didn't know. I wanted to stretch this moment out, make it last. But at the same time, I couldn't wait to watch the look on Zack's face when I disappeared right in front of his eyes. Let's go outside, Zack said impatiently. It's too hot up here. I bought my bike. Why don't we cycle to the playground behind school, see who's there? Maybe later, I replied, grinning at Lefty. I turned to my brother. Should I show Zack our secret or not? Lefty grinned back at me. He shrugged. What secret? Zack demanded. I knew he couldn't bear to be left out of anything. He couldn't bear it if anyone had a secret he didn't know about. What secret? He repeated when I didn't answer. Show him, Lefty said, tossing up the softball. We have such sights to show you. I rubbed my chin, pretending to be thinking about it. Well, okay. I motioned for Zack to stand behind me. You're going to make funny faces in the mirror, Zack guessed. He shook his head. Big deal. No, that's not the secret, I told him. I stood in front of the mirror, admiring my reflection, which stared back at me in the glass. Watch, Lefty urged, stepping up beside Zack. I'm watching, Zack said impatiently. I bet you can disappear into thin air, I told Zack. Yeah, sure, he muttered. Lefty laughed. Ha. How much do you want to bet? I asked. 2 cents, Zack said. Is this some kind of trick mirror or something? Something like that, I told him. How about $10? Bet me $10. Uh-huh. Forget the bet. Just show him, Lefty said, bouncing up and down impatiently. No, if you can do something, if you do something good. Dude, don't do it for free. Capitalism. That's what you want, mate. Forget the bet. Just show him, Lefty said, bouncing up and down impatiently. I have a magic kit at home, Zack said. I can do over 1,000 tricks, but it's kid stuff, he sneered. You don't have any tricks like this, I said confidently. Let's just get it over with so I can go outside, he grumbled. I stood facing the mirror. Ta-da! I sang myself a short fanfare. Then I reached up and grabbed the light chain. I pulled it. The lamp above the mirror flashed on, blindingly flash at first, then dimming as before. And I was gone. Hey, Zack cried. He stumbled backwards. He actually stumbled out of shock and shat his pants. There was a nasty mess and smell. Invisible, I turned away from the mirror to enjoy his stunned reaction. Max, he cried out. His eyes searched the room. Lefty was laughing his head off. Max! Zack sounded really worried. Max! How'd you do that? Where are you? Scooby-Doo, where are you? I'm right here, I said. He jumped at the sound of my voice. Lefty laughed even harder. Ha ha. I reached out and took the softball from Lefty's hand. I glanced at the reflection in the mirror. The ball seemed to float in mid-air. Here, catch, Zack. I tossed it at him. He was so stunned he didn't move. The ball bounced off his chest. Max, how do you do this trick? He demanded. It isn't a trick. It's real, I said. Hey, wait. He got a suspicious look on his face. He ran around to the back of the mirror. I think he expected me to be hiding back there. He looked very disappointed when he didn't see me. Is there a trapdoor or something? He asked. He walked back in front of the mirror, got down on his hands and knees, and started to search the floorboards for a trapdoor. I leaned over and pulled his t-shirt up over his head. Close enough. Hey, stop it, he yelled, climbing angrily to his feet. That's annoying. I tickled his stomach. That's a bit weird, mate. Stop, Max! He squirmed away, thrashing his arms, trying to hit me. He looked really frightened now. He was breathing hard and his face was bright red. I pulled his t-shirt up again. He jerked it down. You're really invisible. His voice rose up so high only dogs could hear it. Really? Good trick, huh? He said right in his ear. He jumped and spun away. What does it feel like? Does it feel weird? I didn't answer him. I crept out of the room and picked up a cardboard box just outside the door. I carried it up to the mirror. It looked great, a box floating all by itself. Put it down, Zack urged. He sounded really scared. This is really freaking me out, Max. Stop it, okay? Come back so I can see you. I wanted to torture him some more, but I could see he was about to lose his patience. Besides, I was starting to feel weird again. Sort of dizzy and lightheaded, and the bright light was hurting my eyes, starting to blind me. Okay, I'm coming back, I announced. Watch. I leaned against the mirror and reached up for the chain. I suddenly felt very tired, very weak. It took all of my strength to wrap my hand around the chain. I had the strangest sensation that the mirror was pulling me, tugging me towards it, holding me down. With a determined burst of strength, I pulled the chain and managed to flush the toilet. The lamp went out. The room darkened. Where are you? I still can't see you, Zack cried, his voice revealing panic. Just wait, I told him. It takes a few seconds. The longer I stay invisible, the longer it takes to come back. And then I added, I think. Staring into the blank mirror, waiting for my reflection to return, I suddenly realised I didn't know anything at all about this mirror, about turning invisible, about coming back, yet I've done it 3 times now. My mind suddenly whirred with all sorts of terrifying questions. What made me think that reappearing was automatic? What if you could only come back twice, and after the 3rd time you went invisible, you stayed invisible? What if the mirror was broken? What if it was locked away in the hidden room because it didn't work properly, and it made people stay invisible forever? What if I never come back? No, that can't be, I told myself. But the seconds were ticking by, and my body was still not visible. I touched the mirror, rubbing my invisible hand all over the smooth, cool glass. Max, what's taking so long? Zack asked, his voice trembling. I don't know, I told him, sounding as frightened as he did. And then suddenly, I was back. I was staring at my reflection in the mirror, watching intently, gratefully, as a wide smile crossed my face. Ta-da! I sang my triumphant fanfare, turning to my still-shaken friend. Here I am! Wow! Zack examined. Sorry. Wow! And his mouth remained in a tight O of surprise and wonder. I know, he said, grinning. Pretty cool, huh? I felt very shaky, kind of trembly all over. My knees felt all weak and sweaty. You know the feeling. But I ignored it. I wanted to enjoy my moments of glory. It wasn't often I got to do something that Zack hadn't already done 10 times. Amazing, Zack said, staring hard at the mirror. I've got to try it. Well, I wasn't so sure I wanted Zack to do it. It was such a big responsibility. I mean, what if something went wrong? You've got to let me do it, Zack insisted. Hey, where's Lefty? I asked, glancing quickly around the small room. Huh? Lefty? Zack's eyes searched too. I was so busy being invisible I forgot he was here, I said, and then I called. Hey, Lefty. No reply. Lefty? Silence. I walked around quickly to the back of the mirror. He wasn't there. Calling his name, I made my way to the door and peered out into the attic. No sign of him. He was standing right there in front of the mirror, Zack said, suddenly pale. Lefty, I called. Are you here? Can you hear me? Silence. Weird, Zack said. I swallowed hard. My stomach suddenly felt as if I had swallowed a stone. He was right here, standing right here, Zack said in a shrill, frightened voice. Well, he's gone now, I said, staring at the dark, shadowy reflection of the mirror. Lefty's gone. I am. Hello. Hope you're well. Welcome into Goosebumps. Let's have a quick sippy. Man, that was a long chapter, for Goosebumps at least, anyway. Good to see you two. Glad you can make it. It's been a hot minute. I hope you're well. Alright, moving on. Chapter 9. Maybe Lefty went invisible too, Zack suggested. Then why doesn't he answer us? I cried. I tried calling my brother again. Lefty, are you here? Can you hear me? No reply. I walked up to the mirror and angrily slapped the frame. Stupid mirror. Lefty? Lefty? Zack had his hands cupped around his mouth like a megaphone. Doesn't really work when I got a book in the way. Never mind. He stood at the door to the little room, calling out into the attic. I don't believe it, I said weakly, doing a really crap Victor Meldrew impression. My legs were shaking so much I dropped to the floor, and then I heard giggling. Huh? Lefty? I jumped to my feet. More giggling, jumping from behind the box. I carried into the little room. I lunged towards the box just as Lefty popped up from behind it. Gotcha, he cried, and collapsed over the box, slapping the floor, laughing his head off. Ha ha ha. Gotcha, gotcha both. You little creep, Zack screamed. He and I both pounced at Lefty at the same time. I pulled his arm back until he screamed. Zack messed up his hair, then tickled him. What's with the tickling in this book? It's weird. Lefty was screaming and laughing and squirming and crying all at the same time. I gave him a hard punch on the shoulder. Don't ever do that again, I shouted angrily. Lefty laughed, so I gave him a hard shove and climbed to my feet. Zack and I, both breathing hard, both red in the face, glared angrily at Lefty. He was rolling around on the floor, covered in dust, still laughing like a lunatic. Ha ha ha. You scared us to death. You really did, I exclaimed heatedly. I know, Lefty replied happily. Let's beat him up some more, Zack suggested, balling his hands into tight fists. Okay, I agreed, and that was the day we killed my brother. The end. Oh wait, no, there's more book. You'll have to catch me first, Lefty cried. He was in on his feet in a flash and out of the door. I chased after him, tripped over a stack of old clothes, and went flying headfirst to the floor. Ow! I banged my leg hard. The pain shot up through my body. Pulling myself up slowly, I started after Lefty again, but voices in the attic staircase made me stop. Eric's head popped up first, then April appeared. Erin, who the fuck's Eric? Erin's head popped up first, then April appeared. Lefty was sitting on the windowsill on the far end of the attic, red-faced and sweaty, catching his breath. Hey, how's it going? I called to the other girls, who were doing breaking and entering, apparently. Yeah. Brushing my hair dust off my jeans and straightening my hair with one hand. Your mum said you were up here, Erin explained, looking from Lefty for me. What are you lot doing up here? April asked. Oh, just messing around, I said, casting an angry glance at my brother, who stuck his tongue out in reply. April picked up an old Life magazine from a stack of yellowed magazines and began flipping through it, but the pages crumbled as she looked at them. Ugh, she said, putting it down. This stuff is so old. That's what attics are for, I said, starting to feel a little more normal. Who ever heard of keeping new stuff in an attic? To be fair, I put new boxes for stuff like PS5s and stuff in the attic. So, technically, yeah. Ha ha, Lefty cried, laughed sarcastically. Where's that mirror? Erin asked, stepping into the centre of the room. The one that made that weird optical illusion last Saturday. It wasn't an optical illusion, I blurted out. I didn't really feel like messing around with a mirror anymore, but had enough scares for one afternoon, but the words just tumbled out of me. I can never keep a secret. It's a real character flaw. What do you mean? Erin asked, very interested. She walked past me, headed for the open doorway of the little room. You mean it wasn't an optical illusion last week? April asked, following her. No, not really, I said, glancing at Lefty, who hadn't budged from the windowsill across the large room. The mirror has strange powers or something. It really can turn you invisible. April laughed scornfully. Yeah, right, she said, and I'm going to fly to Mars in a flying saucer tonight after dinner. You're not going to fly Mars, you're not going to pilot the entire planet. Very impressive, but unfeasible, I feel. Give me a break, I muttered. I turned my eyes to Erin. I'm super serious, yo. Erin stared back at me, her face filled with doubt. You're trying to tell us that you've gone in that room and become invisible? I'm not trying to tell you, I replied heatedly. I am telling you. April laughed. Erin continued to stare at me, laughing, studying my face. You are serious, she decided. It's a trick mirror, April told her. That's all. That light on top of it is so bright it makes your eyes go weird. Show us, Erin said to me. Yeah, show them, Lefty exclaimed eagerly. He jumped up from the windowsill and started running to the little room. I'll go this time. Let me do it. No way, I said. Let me try it, Erin volunteered. Hey, do you know who else is in there? I asked the girls, following them to the room. Zach is here, I called to him. Hey, Zach, Erin wants to go invisible. Think we should let her? I stepped into the room. Zach? Where's he hiding? Erin asked. I uttered a silent gasp. The mirror light was on. Zach had gone. Hey, that rhymed. Chapter 10. Ooh. Or something. Oh no, I cried. I don't believe this. Lefty laughed. There's a lot of laughing and tickling in this book. And tossing. Zach's invisible, he told Erin and April. Zach, where are you? I demanded angrily. Suddenly, the softball floated up from Lefty's hand. Hey, give that back, Lefty shouted and grabbed for it. But invisible Zach pulled the ball out from Lefty's reach. Erin and April were both gaping at the ball as it floated in midair, their eyes bulging, their mouths wide open. Hi, girls, Zach called in from a booming, deep voice that floated in front of the mirror. April screamed and grabbed Erin's arm. Zach, stop kidding around. How long have you been invisible? I asked. I don't know. The ball flew back up to Lefty, who dropped it and had to chase it out into the attic. How long, Zach? I repeated. About 5 minutes, maybe, he replied. When you chased after Lefty, I turned on the light and went invisible. Then I heard you talking to Erin and April. You've been invisible the whole time? I asked, feeling really nervous and upset. Yeah, this is awesome, he exclaimed, but then his tone grew doubtful. I'm starting to feel kind of funny, though, Max. Funny? Erin asked, staring at where Zach seemed to go coming from. I can't speak. Staring at where Zach's voice seemed to be coming from. What do you mean, funny? Kind of dizzy, Zach replied weakly. Everything's kind of breaking up, you know, like a bad TV picture. I mean, you're starting to fade, to seem far away. I'm bringing you back, I said, and without waiting for Zach to reply, I reached up and pulled the light chain. The light clicked off. Darkness seemed to roll into the room, filling the mirror with grey shadows. Where is he? April cried. It didn't work. He isn't back. It takes a while, I explained. How long? April asked. I don't really know, I said. Why aren't I back? Zach asked. He was standing right beside me. I could feel his breath on my neck. I can't see myself. He sounded very frightened. Don't get tense, I said, forcing myself to sound calm. You know it takes a while, especially since you stayed invisible for so long. But how long? Zach wailed. Shouldn't I be back by now? You were back by now, I remember. Just stay cool, I told him. Even though my stomach was churning and my throat was dry. This is too scary. I hate this, April moaned. Be patient, I said softly. Everyone just be patient. We all stared at the spot where we thought Zach was standing to the mirror. Then back again. Zach, how do you feel? Erin asked, her voice trembling. Weird, Zach replied, as if I'm never coming back. Don't say that, I snapped. But that's how I feel, Zach said sadly. Like I'm never coming back. Just chill out, I said. Everybody just calm down. We stood in silence, watching, waiting. I have never been so frightened in all my life. Why, have you never played Amnesia the Dark Descent then? Get on it. Oh, yeah. Oh, let's have a quick sippy. Are we having fun, boys and girls? Red flavour. Chapter 11. Do something, Zack, still invisible, pleaded. Max, you've got to do something. I'd better get Mum, Lefty stammered. He dropped the softball to the floor and started for the door. Mum, what can Mum do? I cried in a panic. But I'd better get somebody, Lefty declared. At that moment, Zack shimmered back into the view. Wow! He uttered a long, breathless sigh of relief and slumped to his knees on the floor. Yay! Erin cried happily, clapping her hands as we all gathered round Zack. How do you feel? I asked, grabbing his shoulders. I think I wanted to know for sure that he really was back. I'm back! Okay, Zack proclaimed, smiling. That's all I care about. That was really scary, April said quietly, hands shoved into the pockets of her little white tennis shorts. I mean, really? I wasn't scared, Zack said, suddenly changing his tune. I knew there was no problem. Do you believe this guy? 1 second, he's whining and whining, begging me to do something. The next second, he's pretending he had the time of his life, Mr. Confident. What did it feel like? Erin asked, resting one hand on the wooden frame. Awesome, Zack replied. He climbed unsteadily to his feet. Really, it was totally awesome. I want to get invisible again before school on Monday so I can go and spy on the girls' cloakroom. Zack, you're a pig, Erin declared disgustedly. What's the point of being invisible if you can't spy on girls? Zack asked. Are you sure you're okay? I asked, genuinely concerned. You look pretty shaky to me. But I started to feel a little strange at the end, Zack confessed, scratching the back of his head. How do you mean? I asked. Well, as if I was being pulled away. Away from the room. Away from all of you. Pulled where? I demanded. He shrugged. I don't know. I only know one thing. His smile began to form on his face, and his blue eyes seemed to light up. Uh-oh, I thought. I only know one thing, Zack repeated. What? I had to ask. I'm the new invisible champ. I stayed invisible longer than you, at least 5 minutes longer than anybody. But I haven't had a turn, Erin protested. I don't want a turn, April declared. Chicken! Zack teased her. I think you're stupid for messing around with this, April said heatedly. It isn't a toy, you know. You don't know anything about it. You don't know what it really does to your body. I feel fine, Zack told her, and pounded his chest with both hands like a gorilla to prove it. That proves nothing. There's no scientific basis on that at all, Zack. I'm ready to go back. Even longer. I want to get invisible and go outside and play tricks on people, Lefty said enthusiastically. Can I go next, Max? I don't think so. I was thinking about what April had said. We were really messing around with something that could be dangerous. Something we didn't know anything about. Max has to go again, Zack said, slapping me hard on the back, nearly sending me sprawling against the mirror. To beat my record, he grinned at me. Unless you're chicken too. I'm not chicken, I insisted. I just think, you're chicken. Zack accused, laughing scornfully. He started clucking loudly, flapping his arms like a chicken. I feel like chicken tonight. I'm not a chicken. Let me go, Lefty pleaded. I can break Zack's record. It's my turn, Erin insisted. You boys haven't all had turns. I haven't had to go once yet. Okay, I said with a shrug. You go first, Erin, then me. I was glad Erin was so eager to do it. I really don't feel like getting invisible again just yet. To be honest, I felt very fluttery and nervous. Me next, Lefty insisted. Me next, me next. He started chanting the words over and over. I clapped my head over his hands. Mouth and hands. Whatever. One of them. Maybe we should all go downstairs, I suggested. Chicken! Zack teased. You're chickening out. I don't know, Zack, he replied honestly. I saw Erin stare at me. Was that disappointment in her face? Did Erin think I was chicken too? Okay, I said. Go ahead, Erin. You go. Then I'll go. Then Lefty. We'll all beat Zack's record. Erin and Lefty clapped. Erin groaned and rolled her eyes. Zack grinned. Right, I need to point out something because it's bugging me. This page is misprinted. It's on an angle. The edges of sentences are cut off I don't know if you can make that out. But it basically means the book is going invisible. There we go. That chickening, it's like just there. There we are. Just the edge. Just the edge. They've been cut out. The book's going invisible. We've broken the fourth wall, people. Where was I? It's no big deal, I told myself. I've done it 3 times already. It's perfectly painless. And if you just stay cool and wait patiently, you come right back the way you were. Does anyone have a watch? Erin asked. No. We need to keep time so we know what time I have to beat. I could see that Erin was really into this competition. Lefty seemed really excited too, and of course, Zack would compete in anything. Only April was unhappy about the whole thing. She walked silently to the back of the room and sat down on the floor with her back against the wall, her arms folded over her knees. Hey, you're the only one with a watch, Erin called to April. So you be the timer, okay? April nodded with enthusiasm. Yep, just like that. Erin took a deep breath and rolled up to the mirror. She closed her eyes, reached up and tugged the light chain. The light came on with a bright flash. Erin disappeared. Oh wow, she cried. This is really cool. How does it feel? April called from behind us, her eyes glancing from the mirror to her watch. I don't feel any different at all, Erin said. What a great way to lose weight. 15 seconds, April announced. Lefty's hair suddenly stood straight up in the air. Cut it out, Erin, she shouted, twisting away from her invisible hands. We heard Erin laugh from somewhere near the Lefty. Ha. Then we heard her footsteps as she walked out of the room and into the attic. We saw an odd coat rise up into the air and dance around. After it dropped back into its box, we saw an old magazine fly up and its pages appeared to flip rapidly. This is so much fun, Erin called to us. The magazine dropped back onto its stack. I can't wait to go outside like this and really scare people. 1 minute, April called. She hadn't moved from her sitting position against the wall. Erin moved around the attic for a while, making things fly and float. Then she returned to the little room to admire herself in the mirror. I'm really invisible, we heard her exclaim excitedly. Just like in a film or something. Yeah, great special effects, I said. 3 minutes, April announced. That was 3 minutes. Killed 2 minutes like that. That was only a paragraph. How was 30 seconds? Like the whole page. Time is broken. Erin continued to enjoy herself until about 4 minutes had passed. 4 minutes? That's just a sentence. What the hell? Then her voice suddenly changed. She started to sound doubtful, frightened. I don't like this, she said. I feel pretty strange. April jumped to her feet and ran up to me. Bring her back, she demanded. Hurry. I hesitated. Yes, bring me back, Erin said weakly. But you haven't beaten my records, I declared. Are you sure? Yes, please. I don't feel right. Erin suddenly sounded far away. I stepped up to the mirror and pulled the chain. The light clicked off. We waited for Erin to return. How do you feel? I asked. Just weird, she replied. She was standing right next to me, but I couldn't see her. It took nearly 3 minutes for Erin to reappear. 3 very tense minutes. When she shimmered back into view, she shook herself like a dog, shaking water off a bath. Then she grinned at us reassuringly. I'm okay. It was really terrific, except for the last few seconds. I really shouldn't shake because it really dislodges my headset. That's better. Where was I? You didn't beat my record, Zack reported happily. You came so close, but you wimped out just like a girl. Hey, Erin gave Zack a hard shove. Stop being such a jerk. But you only have 15 seconds to go, and you wimped out, Zack told her. I don't care, Erin insisted, frowning angrily at him. It was really cool. Anyway, I'll beat your record next time, Zack. I'm going to be the winner, Lefty announced. I'm going to stay invisible for a whole day, maybe 2. Whoa, I cried. Whoa. That might be dangerous, Lefty. It's Max's turn next, Zack announced. Unless you want to forfeit a go, Max. No way, I said, glancing at Erin. Reluctantly, I stepped up to the mirror and took a deep breath. Okay, Zack, say goodbye to your record, I said, trying to sound calm and confident. They're not really learning their lesson, are they? They're pretty dumb. I didn't really want to do it, I admitted to myself, but I didn't want to look like a chicken in front of the others. For one thing, if I did wimp out, I knew that Lefty would only be reminded of me 20 or 30 times a day for the rest of my life. You could move or kill him. So I decided to go ahead and do it. One thing, I said to Zack. When I call out ready, that means I want to come back. So when I say ready, you pull the light chain as fast as you can. Okay? Gotcha, Zack replied, his expression turning serious. Don't worry. I'll bring you back instantly. He snapped his fingers. Like that. Remember, Max, you've got to beat 5 minutes. Okay, here he goes. Here we go, I said, staring at my reflection in the mirror. I suddenly had a bad feeling about this. A really bad feeling. But I reached up and pulled on the light anyway. Oh no, what's going to happen? The rest of the book is going to happen. Oh, page 69. I felt it was worth pointing out for some reason. There we go. Chapter 12. When the glaring light dimmed, I stared hard into the mirror. The reflections were bright and clear. Against the back wall, I could see April slumped on the floor, staring intently at her watch. Lefty stood near the wall to the right, gaping at the spot where I had stood, a silly grin on his face. Zack stood next to him, his arms crossed over his chest, also staring into the mirror. Erin leaned against the wall to the left. Her eyes were on the light above the mirror frame. And where was I? Standing right in front of the mirror, right in the centre of it, staring at their reflections, staring at the spot where my reflection should be. Only it wasn't. I felt perfectly normal. Experimenting, I kicked the floor. My invisible trainers made the usual scraping sound. I grabbed my left arm with my right hand and squeezed it. It felt perfectly normal. Hi, everyone. Hi, everybody, I said. I sounded the same as ever, only I was invisible. I glanced up to the light, casting a yellow rectangle down into the mirror. What was the light's power? I wondered. Did it do something to your molecules? Make them break apart somehow so you couldn't be seen? No, that wasn't a good theory. If your molecules broke up, you'd have to feel it. And you wouldn't be able to kick the floor or squeeze your arm or Yeah, I'd say if your molecules broke up, you'd feel it. And then some. Jesus. So what did the light do? Did it cover you up somehow? Did the light form some kind of blanket? A covering that hid you from yourself and everyone else? What a mystery! But better damn well explain it. I had the feeling I'd never be able to work it out. Never know the answer. I turned away from the light. It was starting to hurt my eyes. I closed my eyes, but the bright glare stayed with me. 2 white circles that refused to dim. How do you feel, Max? Erin's voice broke into my thoughts. Okay, I suppose, I said. My voice sounded weird to me. Sort of far away. 4 minutes, 30 seconds, April announced. That time went so fast, I said. At least I thought I'd said it. I realised I couldn't tell if I was saying the words or just thinking them. The bright yellow light glowed brighter. I had the sudden feeling it was pouring over me, surrounding me, pulling me. I feel weird, I said. No response. Could they hear me? The light folded over me. I felt myself begin to float. They all float. It was a frightening feeling, as if I was losing control of my body. Ready? I screamed. Zack, ready. Can you hear me, Zack? It seemed to take Zack for hours to reply. Okay, I heard him say. His voice sounded so tiny and so far away. Miles and miles away. Ready? I cried. Ready? Again. I heard Zack's voice, but the light was so bright, so blindingly bright. Blindingly bright, okay. Waves of yellow light rolling over me. Ocean waves of light, sweeping me away with it. Pull the chain, Zack, I screamed. At least, I think I was screaming. The light was tugging me so hard, dragging me far, far away. I knew I would float away, float forever, unless Zack pulled the chain and brought me back. Pull it, please, pull it. Okay. I saw Zack step up to the mirror. He was blurring shadows. He stepped through the dark shadows on the other side of the light, so far away. I felt so feather light. I could see Zack in the shadows. He jumped up. He grabbed the light chain. He pulled it down hard. The light didn't click off. It glowed even more brighter. And then I saw Zack's face filled with horror. He held up his hand. He was trying to show me something. He had the chain in his hand. Max, the chain, he stammered. It's broken off. I can't turn off the light. Oh, Zack, you ruined everything, you little prick. Ugh. Can we not just go invisible for 5 minutes without suddenly ruining it? Honestly. Onward to chapter 13. Beyond the shimmering wall of yellow light, Zack's outstretched hand came clearly into my view. The dark chain dangled from his hand like a dead snake. It broke off, he was crying, sounding very alarmed. I stared through the light at the chain, feeling myself hover beside Zack, floating, fading. Somewhere far in the distance, April was screaming. I couldn't make out her words. Lefty stood frozen in the middle of the room. It seemed strange to see him standing so still. He was always moving, always bouncing, running, falling. But now, he too, stood staring at the chain. The light shimmered brighter. I saw a sudden movement. Someone was crossing the room. I struggled to focus. It was Erin. She was dragging a large cardboard box across the floor. The scraping sound it made seemed so far away. Feeling myself being pulled away, I struggled to watch her. She pulled the box next to the mirror. Then she climbed up onto it. I saw her reaching up to the lamp. I saw her staring into the light. I wanted to ask her what she was doing, but I was too far away. I was floating off. I felt so light, so feather light. As I floated, the yellow light spread over me. It covered me, pulled me. And then, with startling suddenness, it was gone. It was all darkness. I did it, Erin proclaimed. I heard her explain to the others. There was a little bit of chain left up there. I pulled it and turned off the light. Her eyes darted frantically around the room, searching for me. Max, are you okay? Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm okay, I replied. I felt better, stronger, closer. I stepped up to the mirror and searched my reflection. That was scary, Lefty said behind me. I can feel myself coming back, I told them. What was this time? Zack asked April. April's features were tight with worry. Sitting against the wall, she looked pale and uncomfortable. 5:48, she told Zack, and then quickly added, I really think this stupid competition is a big mistake. You beat my record, Zack groaned, turning to where he thought he was listening. I don't believe it. Almost 6 minutes. I'm going for longer than that, Lefty said, pushing past Zack and stepping up to the mirror. We have to fix the chain first, Erin told him. It's too hard to keep climbing onto a box to pull this little bit of chain. I felt pretty strange at the end, I told them, still waiting to reappear. The light grew brighter and brighter. Do you feel as if you were being pulled away? Erin asked. Yeah, I replied, as if I was fading or something. That's how I started to feel, Erin replied. This is just so dangerous, Erin said, shaking her head. I popped back, and I nearly read that as I pooped back. God, that didn't happen. My knees buckled and I almost fell to the floor, but I grabbed the mirror and held myself up. After a few seconds, my legs felt strong again. I took a few steps and regained my balance. What if we couldn't turn off the light? April demanded, climbing to her feet, brushing the dust off the back of her jeans with both hands. What if the chain completely broke and the light stayed on? What then? I shrugged. You broke my record, Zack said, making a disgust face. That means I have another turn. No way, Lefty shouted. It's my turn next. None of you are listening to me, April cried. Answer my question. What if one of you is invisible and the light won't go out? That won't happen, Zack told her. He pulled a string from his pocket. Here, I'm going to tie this tightly to the chain. He climbed onto his box and began to work. Pull the string. The light goes out, he told April. No problem. He turned into Bela Lugosi. Pull the string. If you get that reference, 1 point. Which one of us is going to be first to get invisible and then go outside? Erin asked. I want to go to school and terrorise Miss Hawkins. Miss Hawkins? Are we going to Stranger Things now? Lefty said, sniggering. Miss Hawkins is his social studies teacher. He's been terrorising me ever since school started. Wouldn't it be cool if we just sneak up behind her and say, Hi, Miss Hawkins, and she'd turn around and there'd be no one there? Yeah, that's a bit crap, isn't it? That's the best you can do, Erin scoffed. Lefty, where's your imagination? Don't you want to make chalk fly out of your hand or the blackboard rubbers fly across the room and the wastebasket spill everywhere on her desk and her yoghurt fly into her face? These ideas are crap. Get better ideas. Yeah, that would be cool, exclaimed Lefty. I laughed. It was a funny idea. The four of us could go around completely invisible doing whatever we wanted. We could wreck the whole school in 10 minutes. Everyone would be screaming and running out the doors. What a laugh! Huh. We can't do it now, Lefty said, interrupting my thoughts, because it's my turn to beat the record. He turned back to Abel, who was standing tensely by the door, pulling at a strand of black hair, a worried frown on her face. Ready to time me? I suppose so, she said, sighing. Lefty pushed me out of the way. He stepped in front of the mirror, stared at his reflection, and reached for the string. They've got no survival instinct, these kids, do they? They really don't. Chapter 14. Lefty! A voice shouted from behind him. Lefty! Startled at my interruption, I uttered an alarmed cry. Lefty stepped back up to the mirror. Lefty! Tell your brother his friends have to leave. It's dinner time. Grammy and Poppy are here. They're eager to see you. It was Mum, calling up from downstairs. Okay, Mum. We'll be right down, I shouted quickly. I didn't want her to come up. But that's not fair, Lefty whined. I didn't get my turn. He stepped back up to the mirror and angrily grabbed for the string again. Put it down! Put it down! I told him sternly. We have to go upstairs. Downstairs. Wombling free. Quick! We don't want Mum to Dad coming up here and seeing the mirror, do we? Okay, Lefty grumbled. But next time, I get to go first. And then me, Zack said, headed for the stairs. I get a chance to beat your record, Max. Everybody stop talking about it, I warned, as we all clomped down the stairs. Talk about something else. We don't want them to overhear anything. Can we come over tomorrow? Erin asked. We could start up the contest again. I'm busy tomorrow, April said. We can't do it tomorrow, I replied. We're visiting my cousins in Springfield. Ooh, I'm going to see The Simpsons. Sweet. I was sorry, they've reminded me. My cousins have this humongous sheepdog that likes to run through the mud and then jump on me and wipe its hairy paws all over my clothes. I nearly went to say hairy arse then. Hope it doesn't want to put his hairy arse all over your clothes. Jesus. Not my idea of a good time. No, it's definitely not. There's no school on Wednesday, Zack said. Teachers' meetings, I think. Maybe we could all come over on Wednesday. Maybe, I said. We stepped into the hallway. Everyone stopped talking. I could see my grandparents and parents were already sitting at the dining room table. Grammy and Poppy liked to eat promptly. If their dinner came 1 minute late, it made them really bad-tempered for the rest of the day. I ushered my friends out quickly, reminding them not to tell anyone about what we'd been doing. Zack asked again if Wednesday would be okay, and again I told him I wasn't sure. Getting invisible was really exciting, really thrilling, but it also made me nervous because I nearly died several times, but for some reason my self-preservation's gone out the fucking window. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it again so soon. Please, Zack begged. He couldn't wait to get invisible again and beat my record. He couldn't stand it, he wasn't the champ. I closed the front door behind them and hurried to the dining room to greet my grandparents. They were already slurping their soup when they came in. Hi, Grammy. Hi, Poppy. I walked around the table and gave them each a kiss on the cheek. Grammy smelled of oranges. Well, your brother smelled like lemons earlier. No connection. Her cheeks felt soft and mushy. Grammy and Poppy are the names I gave them when I was a kid. It's really embarrassing to call them that now, but I still do. I don't have much choice. They even called each other Grammy and Poppy. They look alike, almost like brother and sister. Is this book set in Alabama? Oh dear. I suppose what will happen when you've been married 100 years. They both have long, thin faces and short white hair. They both wear thick glasses and silver wire frames. They're both really skinny, and both have had sad eyes and sad expressions. I didn't really feel like sitting there at dinner and making small talk with them today. I was still really stunned about what we'd been doing all afternoon. Being invisible was just so weird and exciting. I wanted to be by myself and think about it. Try to relive it. Relive what it felt like. A lot of times after I've done something really exciting... Try that again. A lot of times after I've done something really exciting or interesting, I like to go up to my room, lie down on my bed, and just think about it. Analyse it. Tear it apart. Touch my trousers. Not that one. Dad says I have a very scientific mind. I think he's right. It's a scientific mind. You fucking with dark forces. What are you talking about? I walked over to my place at the table. You're looking much shorter, Poppy said, wiping his mouth with his serviette. That was one of his standard jokes. He said it every time he saw me. That was a joke? Really? Wow, your humour sucks. I forced a laugh and sat down. Your soup must be ice cold by now, Grammy said, clicking her tongue. Nothing I hate more than cold soup. I mean, what's the point of having soup if it isn't steaming hot? Grammy had never heard of gazpacho soup. It tastes okay, I said, taking a spoonful. We had some delicious cold soup last summer, Poppy said. You'd have to contradict Grammy and start arguments with her. Strawberry soup, remember? You wouldn't want that hot, would you? It wasn't strawberry, Grammy told him. Frowning. It wasn't even soup. It was some kind of fancy yoghurt. How do you confuse yoghurt and soup? No, it wasn't, Poppy insisted. It was definitely cold soup. You're wrong as usual, Grammy snapped. This could get ugly, I thought. What kind of soup is this? I asked, trying to stop their arguing. So we've gone on about being invisible and nearly dying to soup or yoghurt. There's the question for chat today. Soup or yoghurt? Which one? Discuss. Chicken noodle, Mum answered quickly. Don't you recognise it? Poppy and I had soup a few weeks ago that we couldn't recognise, my grandmother said, shaking her head. I had to ask the waiter what it was. It didn't look like what we'd ordered at all. Some kind of potato leek soup, wasn't it, Poppy? Poppy took a long time swallowing some noodles. No, tomato, he answered. Where's your brother? Dad asked, staring at the empty chair next to me. How do you get confused between potato and leek and tomato? They're completely different colours. Are Grammy and Poppy gone senile? I acted with surprise. I've been so busy listening to my grandparents' silly soup arguments I've forgotten all about Lefty. It's not very often I get to say the line, I've been so busy listening to my grandparents' silly soup arguments, but today was that day. His soup is getting cold, Poppy said. You'll have to heat it up for him, Grammy said, tutting again. So where is he? Dad asked. I shrugged. He was right behind me, I said, and turned toward the dining room doorway and shouted, Lefty! Lefty! Don't shout at the table, Mum scolded. Get up and go and find him. Is there any more soup? Poppy asked. I didn't really get enough. Oh, you ungrateful bastard. I put down my serviette and started to get up, but before I was out of my chair, I saw Lefty's soup bowl rise up into the air. Oh no, I thought. I knew instantly what was happening. My idiot brother had made himself invisible, and now he thought he was being funny, trying to scare the daylights out of everyone at the table. The soup bowl floated up over Lefty's place. I stood up and lunged at it and pulled it down as fast as I could. Get out! I whispered loudly to Lefty. What did you say? My mum asked, gaping at me. I said I'm getting out and going to find Lefty, I told her, thinking quickly. Get out now! I whispered to Lefty. Stop talking about finding him. Just go and do it, my mum said impatiently. I just stood up as my stupid invisible brother raised his water glass. The glass floated up against the table. I gasped and grabbed for it, but I grabbed too hard. I jerked the glass and water spilled all over the table. The horror. Can the grandparents and Mum not see this happening? Hey! Mum screamed. I pulled the glass down to its place. Then I looked up. Dad was glaring at me, his eyes burning angrily into mine. He knows, I thought, a heavy feeling of dread sweeping over me. He saw what just happened, and he knows Lefty has spoiled it for everyone. Maybe it's for the best. You know, you're dicing with death here. Chapter 15. Dad glared angrily across the table at me. I waited for him to say, Max, why is your brother invisible? But instead he yelled, Stop fooling about, Max. We don't appreciate your comedy act. Just get up and find your brother. I was so relieved. Dad hadn't realised what was really happening. After all, he thought I was just playing up. Yeah, he just thinks like floating cutlery is the norm. Is there any seconds to the soup? I heard Poppy ask again if I gratefully pushed away from the table and hurried out of the dining room. No, you've had enough, Grammy scolded. No, I haven't. I made my way quickly through the living room, taking long strides, climbing to the second floor, and stopped in the hallway at the door of the attic stairs. Lefty, I whispered. I hope you've followed me. I'm here, Lefty whispered back. I couldn't see him, of course, but he was right beside me. Oh no, are we going back to the Invisible Boy plot? No. How will we ever know how this soup fiasco ends? Will Grandma or Poppy get more soup? We might never know or care. What's the big idea? I demanded angrily. I wasn't angry. I was furious. Are you trying to win the stupid championship? Lefty didn't care I was upset. He started to giggle. Shut up, I whispered. Just shut up. You really are a nerd. All right, calm down. I clicked on the attic light and started angrily up the stairs. I could hear his trainers stomping up behind me. He was still giggling at the top of the stairs. I win, he declared. I felt a hand slap me hard on the back. Stop it, you idiot, I screamed, storming into the little room and housed the mirror. Don't you realise you nearly spoiled it for everybody? But I win, he repeated gleefully. The lamp over the mirror was shining brightly, the reflections glaring sun yellow in the mirror. I really couldn't believe Lefty. He was unusually a pretty selfish kid, but not this selfish. Don't you realise the trouble you could have gotten into? I cried. I win! I win! He chanted. Why? How long have you been invisible? I asked. I stepped up to the mirror and pulled the string. The light went out. The glare remained in my eyes. Ever since you lot went downstairs, Lefty. Still invisible, bragged. That's almost 10 minutes, I exclaimed. I'm the champ, Lefty proclaimed. I stared into the mirror, waiting for him to reappear. The stupidity champ, I repeated. Ooh, sick burn. This is the dumbest thing you've ever done. He didn't say anything. Finally, he asked in a quiet voice, Why is it taking so long for me to come back? Before I could answer, I heard Dad calling from downstairs. Max, are you two up there? Yeah, we'll be right down, I shouted. What are you two doing up there? Dad demanded. I heard him start to climb the stairs. I ran to the top of the stairs to head him off. Sorry, Dad, I said. We're coming. Dad stared at me on the top of the staircase. What on earth is so interesting up there? Just a lot of old stuff, I muttered. Nothing really. Lefty appeared behind me, looking like his old self. Dad disappeared back to the dining room. Lefty and I stared down the stairs. Wow, that was awesome, Lefty exclaimed. Did you start to feel weird after a while? I asked him, whispering no, even though we were alone. No, shook his head. I felt fine. It was really awesome. You should have seen the look on your face when you made the soup bowl float up in the air. He started giggling again, that high-pitched giggle of his that I hate. Listen, Lefty, I warned, stopping up at the bottom of the stairs, blocking his way to the hallway. Getting invisible is fun, but it could be dangerous. It's awesome, he repeated, and I'm the new champ. Listen to me, I said heatedly, grabbing him by the shoulders. Just listen. You've got to promise me that you won't go up there and get invisible by yourself again. I mean it. You've got to wait until someone else is around. Promise? I squeezed his shoulders hard. Okay, he said, trying to squirm away. I promise. I looked down. He had his fingers crossed in both hands. It's going to make turning the page difficult, isn't it? Evan phoned me later that night. It was about 11. I was in my PJs, reading a book in my bed, thinking about going downstairs and begging my parents to let me stay up and watch Saturday Night Live. Ooh, who's on? Michael Myers? That'd be cool. No, Mike Myers, not Michael Myers. That's the wrong Mike. That won't end well, will it? Erin sounded really excited. She didn't even say hello, just started talking a mile a minute in the squeaky mouse voice, so fast I had trouble understanding her. What about the science fair? I asked, holding the phone away from my ear, hoping that it would help me understand her better. The winning project, Erin said breathlessly. The prize is a silver trophy and a gift token for Video World, remember? Yeah, so? I still wasn't following her. I think I was sleepier than I had thought. It had been a nervous, tiring day after all. Well, what if you brought the mirror to school? Erin asked excitedly. You know, I would make you go invisible. Then I'd bring you back, and I'd get invisible. That would be our project. But Erin, I started to protest. We'd win, she interrupted. We'd have to win. I mean, what else could beat it? We'd win first prize, and we'd be famous. Whoa, I cried. Famous? Of course famous, she explained. Our picture would be in the People magazine and everything. Your picture, but you'll be invisible. It'd be a crap picture. Erin, I'm not so sure about this, I said softly, thinking hard. Not sure about what? Not so sure I want to be famous, I replied. I mean, I really don't know if I want the whole world to know about the mirror. Why not? She demanded impatiently. Everyone wants to be famous. And rich. I'm not so bothered about being famous, but I would like to be rich. Not like 1% rich, but comfortable, you know. But they'll take away the mirror, I explained. It's an amazing thing, Erin. I mean, is it magic? Is it electronic? Is it somebody's invention? Whatever it is, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. That's a bit of a tangent there. And they're not going to let you keep it. But it's yours, she insisted. You kept the receipt, right? I'll take it away to study it. Scientists will want it. Government people will want it. Army people. They'll probably want to use it to make the army invisible or something. Scary, Evie mumbled thoughtfully. Yeah, scary. It's about time this book got scary. I said, so I don't know. I've got to think about this. A lot. In the meantime, it's got to be a secret. Yeah, I suppose so, she said doubtfully. But think about the science fair, Max. We could win the prize. We really could. I'll think about it, I told her. I hadn't thought about anything else, I realised. April wants to try it, she said. Huh? I convinced her. I told her I didn't want hurt or anything. She wants to try it on Wednesday. What are we going to do on Wednesday, aren't we, Max? I suppose so, I replied reluctantly, since everybody wants to. Great, she exclaimed. I think I'll beat your record. The new record is 10 minutes, I informed her. I explained about Lefty and his dinner-time adventure. Your brother really is a nutcase, Evan remarked. I agree with her, and then said good night. I couldn't get to sleep that night. I tried sleeping on one side, then the other. I tried counting sheep. Everything. I knew I was sleepy, but my heart was racing. I just couldn't get comfortable. I stared up at the ceiling, thinking about the mirror in the little room above me. It was nearly 3 in the morning when I crept barefoot out of my room, wide awake, and headed for the attic. As before, I leaned heavily on the banister as I climbed, trying to keep the wooden stairs from their usual symphony of creaks and groans. Sounds like my body, to be honest. In my hurry, I get to the little room. I stubbed my toe on the corner of the wooden grate. Ow! I screamed as quietly as possible. I wanted to hop up and down, but I forced myself to stand still and waited for the pain to fade. As soon as I could walk again, I made my way into the little room. I pulled a box in front of the mirror and sat down on it. My toes still throbbed, but I tried to ignore it. I stared at my dark reflection in the mirror. Dark reflection? Oh, we can have Shadow Link from Ocarina of Time. That would be awesome. Studying my hair first, of course. It was totally messed up, but I didn't really care. Then I peered beyond my reflection, behind it. I think I was trying to look deep into the glass. I don't really know what I was doing or why I was there. I was so tired and wound up at the same time. So curious and confused, sleepy and nervous. I ran a hand along the glass, surprised again at how cool it felt in the hot, nearly airless little room. I pushed my open hand against the glass, then pulled it away. It left no handprint. I moved my hand to the wooden frame, once again rubbing the smooth wood. No book, no. I stood up and slowly walked around the back of the mirror. It was too dark back there to really examine it carefully, but there really wasn't anything to examine. The back of the frame was smooth, plain, and uninteresting, just like my face. I came back around to the front and gazed up to the light. It looked like an ordinary lamp. Nothing at all special about it. The bulb was an odd shape, long and very thin, but it looked like an ordinary light bulb. Sitting back down on the box, I rested my head in my hands and stared drowsily into the mirror. I yawned slightly. I knew I should go back downstairs and go to sleep. Mum and Dad were going to wake us up early next morning to drive up to Springfield. But something was holding me there. My curiosity, I suppose. I don't know how long I sat there, still as a statue, watching my own unmoving reflection. It may have just been a minute or two, or it may have been half an hour. But after a while, as I stared into the mirror, the reflection seemed to lose its sharpness. Now I find myself staring at vague shapes, blurred colours, deepening shadows. But not the hedgehog. And then I heard the soft whisper, Max! Like the wind through the trees, the hushed shaking of leaves. Not a voice at all, not even a whisper, just a hint of a whisper. Max! At first, I thought it was inside my own head. So faint, so soft, but so near. I held my breath. Listened hard. Silence now. So it was inside my head, I told myself. I was imagining it. I took a deep breath, let it out slowly. Max! Again, the whisper. Louder this time, sad somehow, almost a plea, a call for help from far, far away. Carl! Oh wait, that's the wrong franchise. Max! I raised my hands to my ears. Was I trying to shout it up? To see if I could make it go away. Inside the mirror, the dark reflected shapes shifted slowly. I stared back at myself, my expression tense, frightened. I realized I was chilled from head to foot. My whole body shivered from the cold. Max! The whisper, I realized, was coming from the mirror. From my own reflection. From somewhere behind my reflection. I leapt to my feet, turned away, and ran. My bare feet slapped against the hardwood floor. I plunged down the stairs, flew across the hall, and dived into my bed. I shut my eyes tight and prayed that the frightening whisper wouldn't follow me. Did you close your door or the attic to make sure it couldn't get out? No? Okay. Well, we're barreling through this. Chapter 16. I pulled the covers up to my chin. I felt so cold. My whole body was trembling. I was breathing hard, gripping the top of the blanket with both hands, waiting, listening. Would the whispers follow me into my room? Were they real, or only in my head? Who was calling me, whispering my name in that sad, desperate voice? That would be me. I'm narrating this book. I mean, granted, I don't have a sad, desperate voice, but still. It's a rude book. Suddenly, I heard panting louder than mine. I felt hot breath on my face, sour smelling and moist. It reached for me. It grabbed my face. I opened my eyes in terror. Whitey! I cried. The stupid dog was standing on his hind paws, leaning over the blanket, furiously licking my face. Whitey! Good dog! I cried, laughing. His scratchy tongue tickled. I was never so glad to see him. Make sure you wash your face afterwards. I hugged him and pulled him onto the bed. He whimpered excitedly. His tail was wagging like crazy. Whitey, what's got you so worked up? I asked, hugging him. Do you hear voices too? Disappointing continue. Don't ever ask your dogs if they can hear voices. They probably won't understand anyway. He uttered a low bark, as if answering the question. Then he hopped off the bed and shook himself. He turned 3 times into a tight circle and turned into a snake. Making a place for himself on the carpet and lay down, yawning loudly. You're definitely weird tonight, he said. He curled himself up into a tight ball and chewed softly on his tail. Accompanied by a dog's gentle snores, I eventually drifted into a restless sleep. When I awoke, the morning sky outside my bedroom window was still grey. The window was open just a crack, and the curtains were swaying in the strong breeze. I sat up quickly, instantly alert. I have to stop going up in the attic, I thought. Oh, no, now you've worked it out. I stood up and stretched. I've got to stop, and I've got to get everyone else to stop. I thought of the whispered cry from the night before, the dry, sad voice whispering my name. Max. The voice from outside my room startled me out of my chilling thoughts. Max, time to wake up. We're going to Springfield, remember? It was my mum out on the landing. Hurry, breakfast is on the table. I'm already up, I shouted. I'll be down in a minute. I heard her footsteps going down the stairs. Then I heard Whitey downstairs barking at the door to be let out. Ruff. I stretched again. Whoa, I cried as my bed wardrobe door swung open. A red-cap t-shirt rose up to the shelf and began to float across the room. I heard giggling. Familiar giggling. The t-shirt danced in front of me. Lefty, you're ridiculous, I yelled angrily. I swiped at the t-shirt, but it danced out of my reach. You promised you wouldn't do this again. I had my fingers crossed, he said, giggling. I don't care, I cried. I lunged forward and grabbed the shirt. You've got to stop. I mean it. I just wanted to surprise you, he said, pretending his feelings were hurt. A pair of jeans floated up from the wardrobe shelf and began to parade back and forth in front of me. Lefty, I'm going to murder you, I shouted. Bit extreme. Then I lowered my voice, remembering that Mum and Dad might hear. Put that down, now. Put the t-shirt down, now. Go upstairs and turn off the mirror light. Hurry. I shook my fist at where the jeans were marching. Curse you, jeans. I was so angry. Why did it have to be so stupid? Didn't he realise this wasn't just a game? It's a mirror, it's not a game. Suddenly, the jeans collapsed into a heap on the carpet. Lefty, toss them to me, I instructed him. Then get upstairs and get yourself visible again. Silence. The jeans didn't move, like a normal pair of jeans. Lefty, don't mess about, I snapped, feeling the stab of dread in the pit of my stomach. Give me the jeans and get out of here. No reply. The jeans remained crumpled on the carpet. Stop this stupid game, I screamed. You're not funny. Just stop it. Really, you're scaring me. I knew that's what he wanted to hear. Once I admitted he was scaring me, I was sure he would giggle and go and do as I said. But no. The room was still silent. The curtains fluttered towards me, then pulled back with a gentle rustling sound. The jeans lay crumpled on the carpet. Lefty? Hey, Lefty, I called, my voice trembling. No reply. Lefty? Are you here? No. Lefty had gone. To Springfield with his parents. Are we having a good time, everyone? We've made it to page 100. Yay! How long is this book? Let's have a quick moment. Oh, let's see now. It's 143 pages. We've got 43 pages to go. Okay, we've got this. Right, no point fighting around. Let's go. Chapter 17. Lefty! My voice came out weak and trembling. He wasn't there. It wasn't a game. He had gone. Without thinking, I ran out of my room, down the hall, and up the stairs to the attic. My bare feet pounded on the steep wooden steps. My heart was pounding even louder. What the fuck is pounding? As I stepped into the heat of the attic, a wave of fear crept over me. What if Lefty had disappeared forever? With a frightened cry, I lunged into the tiny room. The bright light reflected in the mirror shone into my eyes. Shielding my eyes with one hand, I made my way to the mirror and pulled the string. The light went out immediately. Lefty! I called anxiously. No reply. Lefty, are you up there? Can you hear me? Fear clogged my throat. Oh, God, I can't speak. I was panting loudly, barely able to speak. Lefty! Hi, Max, I'm here. My brother's voice came from right beside me. I was so happy to hear it. I turned and gave him a hug, even though I couldn't see him. I'm okay, he said, startled by my emotion. Really, Max? I'm okay. It took a few minutes for him to reappear. What happened? I asked, looking him up and down as if he hadn't seen him for months. You were clowning around in my room, then you were gone. I'm fine, he insisted with a shrug. But where did you go? I demanded. Up here, he repeated. But Lefty. Something about him looked different. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but staring at his face, I was sure that something was weird. Stop staring at me like that, Max. He shoved me away. I'm fine. Really. He started dancing away from me, heading for the stairs. But Lefty! I followed him out of the room. No more questions, okay? I'm all right. Stay away from the mirror, I said sternly. Do you hear me? He started down the stairs. I mean it, Lefty. Don't get invisible again. Oh, that's something to say to your friends, isn't it? I mean it. Don't you dare go invisible again. I don't even think about it. Okay, he snapped. I won't do that anymore. I checked to make sure his fingers weren't crossed. This time, they weren't. His mum was waiting for us in the hall. So there you are, she said impatiently. Max, you're not dressed. I'll hurry, I told her, and bolted into my room. Lefty, what have you done to your hair? I heard Mum ask my brother. Have you brushed it differently or something? No, I heard bravely reply. It's the same, Mum, really. Maybe your eyes are different. What? Stop being so cheeky and get downstairs, Mum told him. Something was definitely weird about Lefty. Mum had noticed it too, but it couldn't work out what it was. As I picked my jeans off the floor and pulled them on, I started to feel a little better. I'd been so frightened that something terrible had happened to my brother. Frightened that he'd disappear for good, that I'd never see him again. All because of that stupid mirror. All because it was such a thrill to get invisible. I suddenly thought about Erin, April and Zach. They were so excited about Wednesday. About the big competition. Even April was going to get invisible this time. No, I thought. I have to call them. I have to tell them. I've really made up my mind. No more mirror. No more getting invisible. I'll call all three of them when I get back from Springfield, and I'll tell them the competition is cancelled. I sat down on my bed to tie my trainer laces. Wow, I thought. That's a load off my mind. And it was. Having decided not to use the mirror ever again made me feel much, much better. All my fears seemed to float away. Little did I know that the most frightening thing was still to come. Oh no, my heart can't take it. Whatever will we do? Let's move on. Chapter 18. Imagine my surprise when Zach, Erin and April appeared at my front door on Wednesday morning. You're not going to tell us about Springfield? That could have been the most interesting part. So here's a story about The Simpsons. Oh man. What a rip-off. I told you a lot the competition is off, I spluttered, staring at him in astonishment through the screen door. But Lefty phoned us, Erin replied. He said you changed your mind. The other two agreed. My mouth dropped to my knees. There we go. Oh God, my spine. Lefty, they nodded. He phoned us yesterday, April said. But Lefty isn't even here this morning, I told him as they marched into the house. He's at the playground playing softball with some of his friends. Who's here? My mum called. She came walking into the hall, drying her hands on the tea towel. She recognised my friends and turned to me, a bewildered look on her face. I nearly read that as a wildebeest look on her face, and that would have been very different. But not unwelcome. Max, I thought you were going to help me down the basement. I didn't know you made plans with Zach, Erin and April. I didn't, I replied weakly. Lefty, we just dropped in, Zach told Mum, coming to my rescue. If you're busy, Max, we can go, Erin added. No, that's okay, Mum told them. Matt was complaining about how boring it would be to help me. It's good that you three have turned up. She disappeared back into the kitchen. As soon as she had gone, my three friends practically pounced on me. Upstairs, Zach cried eagerly, pointing to the stairs. Let's get invisible, Erin whispered. Quite frankly, far too upbeat. I got to go first since I've never gone, April said. I tried to argue with them. Hold on, I get to go first since I've never gone. I thought April didn't want to do it flat out last time. I thought she was like dead set against it. Now she wants to go. Okay, you've changed your tone. I tried to argue with them, but I was outnumbered and outvoted. Okay, I reluctantly agreed. I started to follow him up the stairs when I heard scratching noises at the door. I recognised the sound. It was Whitey, back from his morning walk. I pushed open the screen door and he trotted in, wagging his tail. The silly dog had some burrs stuck to his tail. I chased him into the kitchen and managed to get him to stand still long enough to pull them off. Then I hurried up to the attic to join my friends. I'm glad we got that part about the dog. That was very vital to the plot. By the time I got up there, April was already standing in front of the mirror, and Zach was standing beside her, ready to pull the light on. Well, I called. Well, sounding like Crash Bandicoot, but in a really crap way. They turned to look at me, to see that April had a frightened expression on her face. I'll have to do this the right way, or else I might wimp out, she explained. I just think we should get the rules straight first, I said sternly. This mirror really isn't a toy, and... We know, Zach interrupted, grinning. Come on, Max. No lectures today, okay? We know you're nervous because you're going to lose, but that's no reason to... I don't want to compete, April said nervously. I just want to see what it's like to be invisible. Just for a minute, then I want to come back. Well, I'm going for a world record, Zach boasted, leaning against the mirror frame. Me too, Erin said. I really don't think that's a very good idea, I told them, staring at my reflection in the mirror. We should just get invisible for a short time. It's too dangerous to. What a wimp, Zach declared, shaking his head. We'll be careful, Max, Erin said. I just have a really bad feeling, I confessed. My hair was standing up at the back. I stepped closer to the mirror to see better, and smothered it down with my hand. I think we should all get invisible at the same time, Zach said to me, his blue eyes lighting up with excitement. Then we could go to the playground and scare your brother to death. Everyone laughed except April. I just want to try it for a minute, she insisted. That's all. First we compete, Erin told Zach. Then we go out and scare people. Yeah, all right, Zach exclaimed. I decided to give up. There was no sense in trying to reason with Zach and Erin. They were too excited about this competition. Okay, let's get it over with, I told them. But I go first, April said, turning back to the mirror. Zach reached up for the string again. Ready? After 3, he said. I turned to the door as Whitey came sniffing his way in, his nose lowered to the floor, his tail straight out behind him. Whitey, what are you doing up here? I asked. He ignored me and continued sniffing furiously. 1, 2, Zack started. When I say ready, bring me back, okay? April asked, standing stiffly, staring straight ahead into the mirror. No jokes or anything. Zack? No jokes, Zack replied seriously. As soon as you want to come back, I'll turn off the light. Good, April replied softly. Zack began to count again. 1, 2, 3. As he said 3 and pulled the string, Whitey stepped up beside April. The light flashed on. Wiley, I screamed, stop! But it was too yelp. With a yip of surprise, the dog vanished, along with April. No, not the dog! Don't hurt the dog! Leave Wiley alone. He didn't do anything to anyone. Oh no. Alright. Even though he's not been talked about much in this book, I feel more for the dog than any of the characters. Because he's a doggo. Chapter 19. The dog, Erin screamed. Hey, I'm gone. I'm invisible, April explained at the top of the same time. I could hear Whitey whimpering. He sounded really frightened. Pull the string, I shouted to Zack. Not yet, April protested. Pull it, I insisted. Zack pulled the string. The light went out. April reappeared first with an angry expression on her face. Whitey reappeared and fell down. He jumped up quickly, but his legs were all wobbly. Wobbly dog? He looked so funny and we all started to laugh. Oh, don't laugh at the poor dog, you shit. What's going on up there? My mum's voice from the stairs startled into instant silence. What are you doing? Nothing, Mum. We're just farting around with the laws of nature. I answered quickly, signalling with my friends to remain silent. Just messing around. I don't understand what's so interesting up there in that dusty old attic, she called up. I crossed my fingers, hoping she wouldn't come upstairs to find out. We'd just like it up here, I replied. Pretty pathetic, but it was the only thing I could think of to say. Whitey, having recovered his balance, went running up the stairs. I heard the dog's toenails click on the wooden stairs as he went down to join my mum. That wasn't fair, April complained after Mum and Whitey had gone. I didn't get to any time. I think we should get out of here, I pleaded. You see how unpredictable it is? You never know what's going to happen. That's half the fun of it, Erin insisted. I want another turn, April said. We argued for about 10 minutes. Once again, I lost. It was time to start the competition. Erin was going first. 10 minutes is the time to beat, Zack instructed her. No problem, Erin said, making funny noises at herself in the mirror. 10 minutes is too easy. April had resumed her position, sitting on the floor with her back against the wall. Studying her watch, we had agreed that she would take another turn after the competition was over. After it was over. Standing there watching Erin get ready. I wished it was over already. I felt cold all over. I had a heavy feeling of dread weighing me down. Please, please, I thought to myself, let everything go okay. Zack pulled the string. Erin disappeared in a flash of light. April studied her watch. Zack took a step back to the mirror and crossed his arms in front of his chest. His eyes glowed with excitement. That's what excitement looks like. How do I look? Erin teased. You've never looked better, Zack joked. I like what you did with your hair, April teased, glancing up from the watch. Even April was joking and having a good time. Why couldn't I relax too? Why was I suddenly so frightened? You feel okay? I asked Erin, the words nearly caught in my throat. Fine, Erin replied. I could hear her footsteps as she walked around the room. If you start to feel weird, just say, ready, and Zack will pull the string, I said. I know, she replied impatiently, but I won't be ready to come back until I break the record. I'm going next, Zack told Erin, arms still crossed in front of him. So your record won't last for long. Suddenly Zack's arms uncrossed. His hands flew wildly in the air. Something like that. He began slapping his face with both of his hands. Oh God, this is going to hurt. There we are. Close enough. I'm not using both hands. Fine. Ow! Stop it, Erin, he yelled, trying to squirm away. Let go. We heard Erin laugh as Zack slapped himself a few more times, then finally managed to wrestle out of her grip. 1 minute, April announced from behind us. Ow! You hurt me, Zack said, scowling and rubbing his red cheeks. Erin laughed again. You still feel okay? I asked, glancing into the mirror. Fine. Stop worrying, Max, Erin scolded. My t-shirt suddenly pulled up over my head. Erin laughed. Give me a break, I cried, spinning away. 2 minutes, April announced. I heard the attic stairs creaking. A few seconds later, Whitey poked his head in. This time, he stopped in a doorway and peered into the room without coming in. Go back downstairs, boy, I told him. Go down. He stared back at me as if considering my request, but he didn't budge from the doorway. I didn't want to take another chance of him getting too close to the mirror, so I grabbed him by the collar and guided him to the stairs. Then it took a little while for the stupid dog to get the idea that we were supposed to go down the stairs. When I returned to the little room, April had just called out 4 minutes. Zach was pacing impatiently back and forth in front of the mirror. I suppose he couldn't wait for it to be his turn. I found myself thinking about Lefty. Lefty knew I had phoned everyone and cancelled the competition. So why had he called Zach, Evan and April and told him he was back on? Just one of his practical jokes, I decided. I'd have to find a way to pay him back for this. Something really evil. 8 minutes, April said, stretching. Pretty good, Zach told Evan. Sure you don't want to quit now? There's no way you can win. Why not save everyone this time? Do you still feel okay? I asked anxiously. No reply. Erin, I called, searching around as if I'd been chance of spotting her. You feel okay? No reply. Erin, don't mess around. It's not funny, I cried. Yeah, answer us, Zach demanded. Still no reply. Glancing into the mirror, I saw April's reflection, caught her horrified expression. Erin's gone, she uttered, her voice a frightened whisper. Terrifying. Okay. What's going to happen? How's this going to end? They haven't explained where this mirror's coming from at all yet. Chapter 20. Erin, where are you? I shouted. When she didn't reply, I ran over to the string. Just as I grabbed it, I heard footsteps outside the room. A few seconds later, a can of Coke came floating through the door. Miss me, Erin said playfully. You scared us to death, I cried, my voice squeaking. Erin laughed. I didn't know you cared. That wasn't funny, Erin, Zach said sternly. For once he was agreeing with me. You really did scare us. I got thirsty, Erin replied. The Coke can tilted up. We saw Coke start to pour out of it. Stop saying Coke, are you getting paid by the word? The liquid abruptly disappeared as it flowed into Erin's mouth. I think being invisible must make you really thirsty, Erin explained, so I slipped downstairs and got a Coke. Oh, for God's sake. But you should have told us, scolded April. Her eyes turned back to her watch. 9 minutes. You shouldn't go downstairs, I added heatedly. I mean, what if Mum had seen you? Saw me? Well, you know what I mean, I muttered. Erin laughed. I didn't think it was funny. Why was I the only one taking this seriously? Erin beat Lefty's record and kept going. When April called out 12 minutes, Zach asked Erin if she wanted to come back. No reply. Erin, are you winding us up again? I demanded. Still no reply. I could feel my throat tighten once again with fear. I walked over and pulled the string. My hand was shaking as I pulled it. I prayed silently to myself that Erin would return okay. The light went out. The three of us waited tensely for Erin to come back. After what seemed an endless wait, she shimmered back into view. She turned quickly and away from the mirror, a triumphant smile on her face. The new champ, she declared, raising her fist in a gesture of victory. You okay? I asked, my feeling of fear refusing to leave. She nodded. Just fine, Willy Guts. She stepped away from the mirror, walking unsteadily. I stared at her. Something about her looked different. She looked perfectly okay. Not pale or sick looking or anything, but something was different. Her smile, her hair. I wish I could work out what it is. I think I've worked out what it is. Max, pull the string. Zach's eager voice jerked me away from the thoughts. Let's go. Man, I'm going for 15 minutes. Okay, get ready, I said, glancing at Erin as I grabbed for the string. She flashed me a reassuring smile, but something about her smile was different. Something. But what? I pulled the string. Zach vanished in a flash of bright light. Return of the Invisible Man, he cried in a deep voice. That's a much better film. Not so loud, I warned him. My mum will hear you downstairs. Erin had lowered herself into the floor beside April. I walked over and stood over her. You sure you're okay? I asked. You don't feel dizzy or weird or anything? She shook her head. No, really. Why don't you believe me, Max? As I stared down at her, I tried to work out what was different about her appearance. What a mystery. I just couldn't put my finger on it. Well, how come you didn't answer when I called you? I demanded. Huh? Her face filled with surprise. When? In about 12 minutes, I told her. I called you when Zach called you, but you didn't answer us. Erin's expression turned thoughtful. I suppose I didn't hear you, she replied finally. But I'm fine, Max, really. I feel great. It was really awesome. I joined him on the floor and leaned back against the wall to wait for Zach's turn to be over. I really meant it. Don't turn off the lights until 15 minutes, he reminded me. Then he messed up my hair, making it stand straight on the air. Both girls laughed. I tried to get up, walk over to the mirror and comb it back down. I don't know why people think messed up hair is such a riot. I really don't get it. Me neither. I'll never understand fashion. Hey, follow me. I've got an idea, Zach said. His voice was coming down from the doorway. Whoa, hold on, I called. But I could hear his trainers stepping across the attic. Follow me outside, he called to us. We heard his footsteps on the attic stairs. Zach, don't do it, I pleaded. Whatever it is, don't do it. But there was no way he was going to listen to me. A few seconds later, we were out of the back door, following our invisible friend towards the neighbour, Mr. Evander's back garden. How can you follow him if you can't see him? This is going to be trouble, I thought happily. Big trouble. Erin, April and I hid behind the hedge that separated our two gardens. As usual, Mr. Evander was out in his tomato garden, stooped over, pulling up weeds, his big belly hanging out under his t-shirt, his red bald head shiny under the sun. What is that going to do, I wondered, holding my breath, my whole body heady with dread. And then I saw 3 tomatoes float up from the ground. Not 3. For 4 tomatoes, that would be shit-your-pants scary. They hovered in the air and floated close to Mr. Evander. Oh no, I thought, groaning silently to myself. Please, Zach, no. Please don't do it. Please don't tomato Mr. Zander. Mr. Evander. Who the fuck's Mr. Zander? Erin, April and I huddled together behind the hedge, staring in disbelief as the 3 tomatoes began to circle each other rapidly in the air. Invisible Zach was juggling them, showing off as usual. He was always bragging about how he could juggle, and we couldn't. It took a while for Mr. Evander to notice. How the hell do you not notice 3 tomatoes juggling in front of your garden? But when he finally saw the 3 tomatoes spinning around the air, barely a metre in front of him, his eyes bugged out and his face turned as red as the tomatoes. Oh, he cried. Oh, next door's playing with my tomatoes again. He let the weeds fall from his hands and then he just stared at the spinning tomatoes as if he was frozen. Zach tossed the tomatoes higher as he juggled. April and Erin held hands over their mouths to stifle their laughter. They thought Zach's stunt was a real hoot, but I just wanted to get Zach back up to the attic. Hey, Mary, Mary! Mr. Evander started calling to his wife. Mary, come out here. You've got to see this, Mary. Sentient tomatoes. I for one welcome our new tomato overlords. A few seconds later, his wife came running across the garden, a frightened expression on her face. Mike, what's wrong? What's wrong? Look, these tomatoes are twirling in the air, Mr. Evander cried, motioning wildly to hurry. Zach let the tomatoes fall on the ground. Where? Mrs. Evander breathed breathlessly, running as fast as she could. There, look, Mr. Evander pointed. I don't see any tomatoes, Mrs. Evander said, stopping in front of her husband, panting loudly. Yes, they're spinning there. Those tomatoes? Mr. Evander asked, pointed at the 3 tomatoes and going, right, blimey, they really like this trick, don't they? Well, yes, they were twirling around, and, looking terribly confused, Mr. Evander scratched the back of his neck. Mike, how long have you been out in the snow? His wife scolded. Didn't I tell you to wear a cap? I'll be in a few minutes, Mr. Evander said softly, staring at the tomatoes. Well, this is the climax of the story so far. Juggling tomatoes. It's all boiled down to this. As soon as Mrs. Evander turned and headed up to the back of the house, the 3 tomatoes floated up from the ground and began twirling in the air again. Mary, look! Mr. Evander shouted excitedly. Look, quick! They're doing it again! Zach let the tomatoes drop to the ground. Mrs. Evander spun around and stared into the empty space. Mike, you better come with me right now, she insisted. It's time for you to take your meds. She hurried back, grabbed Mr. Evander by the arm and pulled him away. The poor man looked totally bewildered, staring at the tomatoes on the ground, still scratching the back of his neck, and his wife pulled into the house. "Hey, this is brilliant!" Zach cried in front of me. "I've got that man trauma for the rest of his life." Erin and April collapsed in giggles. I had to admit it was pretty funny. We laughed about it for a while. Then we sneaked into the house and up to the attic. You know, this poor man's going to spend the rest of his life trying to prove that tomatoes can, spin in the air, and no one's going to believe him. They've ruined his life. In the safety of the little room, we laughed some more about Zach's juggling stunt. Zach bragged that he was the world's first invisible juggler. Then at 12 minutes, Zach suddenly stopped answering us. Just as Erin had. The three of us called his name over and over again. Silence. Zach didn't reply. "We're going to bring him back," I said, insistently, with fear once again. I ran to the string. "Wait," Erin said, holding me back. "What for?" I pulled away from her. "He said to wait for 15 minutes, remember?" she argued. "Erin, he's completely disappeared," I cried. "But he'll be really angry," Erin pleaded. "I say bring him back," April said anxiously. "Give him till 15 minutes, Erin insisted. "No," I said. I pulled the string. The light clicked off. A few minutes later, Zach flickered back. He smiled at us. "How long?" he asked, turning to April. 13 minutes, 20 seconds, he told him. His grin widened. "The new champ." "You okay? You didn't answer us," I said, studying his face. "I'm fine. I didn't hear you calling me, but I'm fine." Zach looked different to me, too. Something was very different about him. But what? "What's your problem, Max?" he demanded. "Why are you staring at me like I'm some kind of alien life form or something?" "Your hair," I said, studying him. "Was it like that before?" "Huh? What are you talking about? Are you freaking out or something?" Zach asked, rolling his eyes. "Was your hair like that before?" I repeated. "Shaved really short on the right hand and then combed long on the left. Wasn't it the other way around?" "You're weird, Max," he said, grinning at Erin and April. "My hair's the same as it's always been. You've been staring at the mirror way too long or something." I could have sworn his hair had been short on the left, long on the right, but I suppose Zach would know his own hair. "Are you going to go?" Erin asked, jumping up behind me. "Yeah, are you going to beat 15 minutes?" Zach asked. I shook my head. "No, I really don't feel like it," I told them truthfully. "Let's declare Zach the winner and get out of here." "No way," Zach and Erin declared in unison. "You've got to try," Zach insisted. "Don't wimp out, Max. You can beat Zach. I know you can," Erin declared. She and Zach pulled both of me up to the mirror. I tried to pull back, but they practically held me in place. "No, really," I said. "Zach can be the winner. Go for it, Max," Erin urged. "I'm betting on you." "Yeah, go for it," Zach repeated, his hand firmly on my shoulder. "No, please," I said. But Zach reached up to his free hand and pulled the string. No means no, guys. Come on. Friends like this, who needs enemies, eh? I don't know. Alright. Chapter 21. I stared into the mirror for a moment, waiting for the fade to glade from my eyes. It was always such a shock, that first moment, when your reflection disappeared, when you stared into the spot where you knew you were standing, and realised you were looking right through yourself. "How do you feel, Max? How do you feel?" Erin asked me, intimidating me. "Erin, what's your problem?" I snapped. It wasn't like her to be so sarcastic. "Just giving you a taste of your own medicine," she said, grinning. Something about her smile was lopsided. Not normal. "Think you can beat my record?" Zach demanded. "I don't know. Maybe," I replied uncertainly. Zach stepped up to the mirror and studied his reflection. I had the strangest feeling, as if watching him. I couldn't really explain it. I'd never seen Zach stand in just that position and admire himself in just that way. Something was different. I knew it, but I couldn't work it out. Maybe it's just nervousness, I told myself. I'm just so stressed out. Maybe it's affecting the way I look at my friends. Maybe I'm making all this up. 2 minutes, April announced. "Are you just going to stand there?" Erin asked, staring into the mirror. "Aren't you going to move around or do anything, Max?" "No, I don't think so," I said. I just can't think of anything I want to do. I'm just going to wait until the time is up." "You want to stop now?" Zach asked, grinning at the spot where he thought he was standing. I shook my head. Then I remembered that no one could see it. I was about to say that. "No, I might as well go to the distance," I told him. "Since I'm here, I might as well make you look bad, Zach." He laughed scornfully. "You won't beat 13:20, he said confidently. "No way." "Well, you know what," I said, angered by his smug tone of voice. "I'm just going to stand here until I do." And that's what I did. I stood in place, leaning against the mirror frame, while Elfrid counted off the minutes. I did okay until a short while after she had called out 11 minutes. Then suddenly, the glare of light began to hurt my eyes. I closed my eyes, but it didn't help. The light grew brighter, harsher. It seemed to sweep around me, surround me, fold over me, and then I began to feel dizzy and light, as if I was about to float away, even though I knew I was standing perfectly still. "Hey," I called out. "I think I've had enough." My voice sounded tiny and far away, even to me. The light swirled around me. I felt myself grow lighter, lighter, till I had to struggle to keep my feet on the floor to keep me floating away. I uttered a high-pitched cry and was suddenly gripped by panic. Cold panic. "Zack, bring me back," I shouted. "Okay, Max, no problem," I heard Zack reply. He seemed miles and miles away. I struggled to see him through the blinding yellow light. He was a dark figure behind the wall of light. A dark figure moving quickly to the mirror. "I'm bringing you back now, Max. Hold on," I heard Max say. The bright light glowed even brighter. It hurt so much, even with my eyes closed. It hurt. "Zack, pull the string," I shouted. I opened my eyes to see his dim shadow reaching up to the string. "Pull it, pull it, pull it," I urged silently. And in that second, the light would go off, and I'd be safe. A second. One tug of the string. "Pull it, pull it, pull it, Zack." Zack reached for the string. I saw him grab it. And then I heard another voice in the room. A new voice. A surprise voice. "Hi, what's going on up there? What are you kids doing?" I saw the shadowy figure of Zack drop the string and step away from him without pulling it. My mum had burst into the room. And Mum's the antagonist. All along. Not really. Alright, we're rolling on. We're on chapter 22 of 24. 2 chapters to go. Getting there. "Please, pull the string," I called. No one seemed to hear me. "We're just messing about," I heard Zack tell my mum. "But where's Max?" I heard her ask. "How did you find this little room? What are you all doing here?" Her voice sounded as if it was coming from underwater, far, far away. The whole room began to shimmer in light, flickering on and off. I held on tightly to the frame of the mirror, struggling not to float away. "Can you hear me?" I called. "Please, somebody, pull the string. Bring me back." There were just grey shadows in the wavering, rolling light. They didn't seem to hear me. Gripping the frame tightly, I saw a shadow approach the mirror. My mum. She walked around, admiring it. "I can't believe we never knew about this room. Where did this old mirror come from?" I heard her ask. She was standing so close to me. They all were. They were so close and so far away at the same time. "Please bring me back," I shouted. I listened for an answer, but the voices faded away. Shadows moved in a flickering blur. I tried to reach out to them, but they were too far away. I let go of the mirror frame and began to float. "Mum, I'm right here. Can't you hear me? Can't you do anything?" So light, so completely weightless, I floated in front of the mirror. My feet were off the floor. I couldn't see them in the blinding glare. I floated up to the mirror glass, under the light. I could feel the light pull me closer, closer, until it pulled me right into the mirror. I knew I was inside the mirror, inside a glistening blur of colours. The shapes shimmered and rolled together as if underwater. As I floated through the shimmering shards of light and colour, floated silently away from my friends, away from my mum, floated away from the tiny attic room, into the centre of the mirror. In the centre of the undiluting, rolling world of twisted lights and colours. "Help me!" I cried, but my voice was muffled by the blur shifting colours. "Bring me back! Get me back!" Floating deeper into this glimmering world, I could barely hear myself. Deeper into the mirror, and still deeper. The colours gave away to shapes of grey and black. It was cold here, cold as glass. As I floated deeper, deeper, the greys of blacks faded too. The world was white now, pure white all around, shadowless white as far as I could see. I stared straight ahead, no longer calling her out, too frightened to call out, too mystified by the cold ivory world I had entered. "Hello, Max," a familiar voice said. "Oh," I cried out, realising I was not alone. Chapter 23. A scream of terror escaped my lips. I tried to form words, but my brain seemed to have paralysed. The figure approached quickly, silently, through the cold white world of the mirror. He smiled at me, an eerie, familiar smile. "You!" I managed to scream. He stopped centimetres away from me. I stared at him in disbelief. I was staring at myself. Me. Smiling back at me. The smile as cold as the glass that surrounded us. Don't be afraid, he said. I'm your reflection. No. His eyes, my eyes, stood at me hungrily, like a dog staring at a meaty bone. His smile grew wider as I cried out in fear. I've been waiting for you here, my reflection said, his eyes locked onto mine. No, I repeated. I turned away. I knew I had to get away. I started to run. But I stopped short when I saw faces in front of me. Distorted, unhappy faces. Dozens of them. Funhouse mirror faces, with enormous drooping eyes and tiny mouths tight with sadness. The faces seemed to hover just ahead of me, the gaping eyes staring at me, the tiny mouths moving rapidly as if calling to me, warning me, telling me to get away. Who were these people, these faces? Why were they inside the mirror of me? Why did their distorted, twisted images reveal such sadness, so much pain? No, are we in emos night view of the world or something? I gasped as I thought I recognized two of the floating faces, their eyes working furiously, their eyebrows rising widely up and down. Erin and Zack? No. That was impossible, wasn't it? I stared hard at them. Why were they talking so frantically? What were they trying to tell me? Help me, I called, but they didn't seem to hear me. The faces, dozens of them, bobbed and floated. Help me, please. Then I felt myself being spun around. I stared into the eyes of my reflection as he gripped my shoulders and held me in place. You're not leaving, he told me. His quiet voice echoed the clear stillness, circles scratching against the glass. I forced my struggle to free myself, but his grip was strong. I'm the one to leave, he told me. I've been waiting so long, ever since you turned on the light, and now I'm going to step out from here and join the others. Others? I cried. Your friends gave in easily, he said. They did not resist. The switch was made, and now you and I will also make a switch. No, I screamed, and my cry seemed to echo through the icy cold for miles. Why are you so afraid? He asked, turning me around, still gripping my shoulders, bringing his face close to mine. Are you so afraid of your other side, Max? He stared at me intently. That's what I am, you know, he said. I'm your reflection. Your other side. Your dark side. Don't be afraid of me. Your friends were not afraid. They made the switch without much of a struggle. Now they're inside the mirror, and their reflections. His voice trailed off, and he didn't have to finish his sentence. He knew what I was saying. I was quoting Star Wars. Join the dark side. It didn't make sense in context. Now I understand about Evan and Zack. Now I understand why they looked different to me. They were reversed. They were their own reflections. And now I understood why they had pushed me into the mirror, why they had forced me to disappear too. If I didn't do something, I realised, my reflection would switch places with me. My reflection would step into the attic, and I'd be trapped inside the mirror forever. Trapped forever with the sad, bobbing faces. But what could I do? Staring at myself, I decided to stall, to ask myself questions, to give myself a little time to think. Whose mirror is it? Who built it? I demanded. He shrugged. How should I know? I'm only your reflection, remember? But how? It's time, he said eagerly. Don't try to stall with foolish questions. Time to make the switch. Time for you to become my reflection. It's the final chapter. Oh no, there is chapter 25. The penultimate chapter. I pulled away. I started to run. The sad, distorted faces hovered in front of me. I shut my eyes and dodged away from them. I couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. My legs pumped. My arms flew out to my sides. It was so clear and bright, I couldn't tell if I was moving or not. My feet couldn't feel the floor. There were no walls, no ceiling. There was no air brushing my face as I ran. But my fear kept me moving. Through the cold, clear, shimmering light. He was behind me. I couldn't hear him. He had no shadow. But I knew he was right behind me. And I knew if he caught me, I'd been lost. Lost inside this blank world. Unable to see, to hear, to smell, to touch anything. Lost in the cold glass forever. Well, at least you wouldn't be able to smell your brother's stinky breath. So that's something. Another silent bobbing face. And so I kept running. Until the colours returned. Until light bent to form shapes. And I saw shadows moving and shifting in front of me. Stop, Max! I heard my reflection's voice right behind me. Stop right there! But now he sounded worried. And so I started running. Running into the colours and moving shapes. Suddenly, Zack turned off the light. I came bursting into the mirror, into the tiny attic room, into the explosion of sound, of colour, of hard surfaces, of real things, the real world. I stood up, panting, gasping for breath. I tested my legs. I stamped the floor, the solid floor. I turned my eyes to my friends who were standing in front of me, startled expressions on their faces. My mum, I realised, must have retreated back downstairs. Did you make the switch? Zack asked eagerly, his eyes glowing with excitement. Are you one of us? Erin asked at the same time. No, said a voice, my voice, coming from just behind me. We all stared into the mirror. Inside it, my reflection, red-faced and angry, glared out of us, his hands pressed against the glass. He got away! My reflection told my friends. The switch wasn't made. I don't understand, I heard April cry. What's going on? Zack and Erin ignored her. They stepped up quickly to grab me by the arms. They spun me round roughly. The switch wasn't made, my reflection repeated from inside the glass. No problem, Erin told it. She and Zack forced me up to the mirror. You're going back in, Max, Zack said heatedly. He reached up and pulled the light cord. The final chapter. The light flashed on. I was invisible again. My reflection remained in the mirror, open palms pressed against the inside of the glass, staring out. I'm waiting for you, Max, he said. In a few minutes you'll join me in here. No, I shouted. I'm leaving. I'm going downstairs. No, you're not, my reflection said, shaking his head. Erin and Zack won't let you escape. But don't be so frightened, Max. It's all quite painless, really. He smiled. It was my smile, but it was cold, cruel. I don't get this, April was protesting back by the door. Will someone tell me what's going on? You see, April, Erin told her soothingly. What am I going to do? I wondered, frozen in panic. What can I do? Just a few more minutes, my reflection said calmly. Already he was celebrating his victory, his freedom. April! Get help! I cried. She spun around to the sound of my voice. Huh? Get help! Go downstairs! Get help! Hurry! I screamed. But I don't understand, April hesitated. Erin and Zack moved to block her path, but the door suddenly swung open. I saw Lefty stop at the doorway. He peered in, saw my reflection. He must have thought the reflection was me. Think fast, he shouted, and he tossed a softball. The ball smashed into the mirror. I saw the startled look on Lefty's face, and I heard the crash and saw the mirror crack and shatter. My reflection didn't have time to react. He broke into shards of glass and fell to the floor. No! Erin and Zack shrieked. I popped back into view just as Erin and Zack's reflections floated up off the floor. They were sucked into the broken mirror, screaming all the way, sucked into as if a powerful vacuum cleaner were pulling them in. The two reflections flew screaming into the mirror and appeared to crack into hundreds of pieces. Whoa! Lefty cried, gripping the door with all his strength, pressing his body against the doorframe, struggling to keep himself from being sucked into the room. And then Erin and Zack dropped into the floor on their knees, looking dazed and confused, staring at pieces and shattered mirror that lighted the floor around them. You're back! I cried happily. It's really you. Yeah, it's me, Zack said, climbing unsteadily to his feet. Then turning to help Erin up. The mirror was shattered. The reflections had gone. Erin and Zack gazed around the room, still shaken and dazed. April stared at me in total confusion. Lefty remained outside the doorway, shaking his head. Max, he said, you should have caught the ball. That was an easy catch. Erin and Zack were back, and they were okay. It didn't take long to get everything back to normal. We explained everything to April and Lefty as best we could. Last page. April went home. She had to babysit for her little sister. Erin and Zack, the real Erin and Zack, helped me sweep up the broken glass. Then we closed the door to the little room. I latched it tightly, and we all carried boxes over and stacked them up over the block on the door. We knew we were never to go in there again. We vowed never to tell anyone about keeping invisible, or the mirror, or what happened to that little room. Then Erin and Zack headed home. Later, Lefty and I were hanging around in the back garden. That was so scary, I told Lefty with a shudder. You just can't imagine what it was like. Sounds pretty scary, Lefty replied absently. He tossed his softball from hand to hand. But at least everything is okay now. Want to play a little catch? No. I shook my head. I wasn't in the mood. But then I changed my mind. Maybe it'll take my mind off what happened this morning, I said. Lefty tossed me the ball. We trotted behind the garage. a usual place for tossing the ball around. I lobbed it back to him. We were pretty much having a good game of catch until about 5 minutes had gone by, until I stopped and froze in place. Were my eyes playing tricks on me? Here comes my fastball, he said. He heaved it at me. No, no, no. I gaped open-mouthed as the ball shot past me. I didn't even try to catch it. I couldn't move. I could only stare in horror. My brother was throwing it. Right-handed. Well, that was that book. It was fine. They didn't really do much with the whole invisibility thing, did they? It seemed like there were two plots there. They had like a sort of mirror universe thing. That could have been its own thing, really. How come Lefty didn't get sucked into the mirror like the other two evil ones were? I don't know. Also, who invented the mirror? Why was it there? No answer. We'll never know. Oh well. Well, did you enjoy that, everyone? I sure did. Even if it's about kill my throat. Anyway, on reflection, I think that's one of the better Goosebumps books I read. But it could have been better. On reflection. See what I did there? Anyway. Well, if you ever see any mirrors, you shouldn't be afraid of them. There might be an evil reflection in there. But who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, that's going to be it